our recording has started, and just in terms of the attendance, just to see if I can run through the list in terms of participants. I have David Erickson online, Eric Sloan is online, Ann Ditchworth is with us remotely, Jamie Starkle is with us remotely, Lindsay is on, Megan Kleiman is with us today, Melissa Bastian is remote, Nancy Booton is remote, Naomi Ellis is on, Jerry Jones is with us, Stacey Hurridge, and then we have members of our staff with us. I won't go through the staff, but is there any other committee member or guest that I did not mention that's online? Okay. And so I'm going to maybe, if we could go around the room here and just have everybody introduce those.
Natalie Steffner, Des Moines County.
Julie Haggerty, Polk County.
Denise Baker, Wright County.
Dylan Malone, Owatonna County.
Lisa Kent, Wapello County.
Lynn Goodchild, Plymouth County.
Okay, logistically, let me just explain that the first part of this meeting is a joint meeting between the Executive Board of the Recorders Association and the Electronic Services System. And I'll let Nancy and Lisa work out who's trying to officially convene the meeting. This meeting is being recorded, and we have two agenda items as a part of this meeting relating to the MOU and the fee and modernization legislative proposal. So with that introduction, I defer to Lisa and Nancy.
I can go ahead and then let Lisa take over for ESS. But so first we have the MOU extension to be approved. I think all of the executive board has had a chance to look at that. Are there any questions about it from the executive board? If not, then
my background on, I would offer some background, Nancy, and that is that, you know, if you look at the existing agreement, which you can see is a part of it is incorporated within this amendment in Section 1, but the current version of the agreement did call for the ESS and ICRA leadership to review the arrangement and to make any adjustments as necessary. There was a meeting that included Nancy and Lisa and myself. It was a conference call. We didn't meet in person. And generally what we talked about is, you know, where are we going to be in the future? What is possible to do? We talked about sustainability. And generally speaking, the conclusion of that meeting, and Nancy and Lisa can correct me if I've got it wrong, is that, first of all, I think there was mutual commitment to continue with the MOU through the 2025 legislative session. Everybody's been working very hard on the legislative proposal that we will talk about in a few minutes, and the MOU has been a part of the preparations for that, and I believe everybody that was in that discussion believed that we should sort of be all in, that we have a big initiative. We need to do as much as we can to succeed in the MOU, and the work that is being done under the MOU is a part of that. But the other conclusion was, in terms of the current finances of ESS and then the current financial capacity of the Recorders Association, it generally was viewed as probably not something that can be sustained in the long term. And therefore, the recommendation is we're gonna be all in for the legislative session. And the MOU would continue through June 30th, which is actually projected to be a little bit beyond what the expected length of the session will be. And then it will be ended. That's generally the conclusion that was reached from that meeting. And I was a part of that, but Lisa and Nancy were central to that as well. And if Nancy or Lisa, you wanted to add anything else to my description, but otherwise the primary effect of the amendment is just simply to extend it beyond the current expiration date, which is December 31st, 2024, and to extend it 6 months to June 30, 2025.
I think you covered it. Are there any questions from the executive board? And if there's no questions or comment, I'll entertain a motion to approve that.
Something that came out of our district that I had received that I just wanted to touch on. The individual had said that extending the MOU between the ICRA and ILR, this is a huge ask of our budget for these funds. They're asking for $25,000. Our recorder dues in 2024 were increased to $250. If everyone paid their dues, all 99 counties, that would total $24,750. This means that there will be less funds available for the rest of the year. The MOU only covers 6 months. I think this is too much of an ask for our association. So I did just want to share that with everyone that I received that comment out of our district.
Okay, I'll just say my feelings, and I believe Lisa and I believe the rest of the board, was we do need to finish this project to get the increase in fees, and that's going to take a lot of work. If we don't have to expend the rest, if we get shot down in the water, you know, we don't have to expend the rest. It's only continues till we get this through. And we realize that this isn't going to continue after that. Hopefully we don't have to have any big issues come up in the future legislatively where we would need this kind of support, I guess. So that's just what we were thinking. So any other comments?
Like I said, I'm just sharing what was received.
Yeah. Oh, no, I understand that. No, and I'm glad you did. Yeah. Okay, executive board, if
And we
anybody
we
would
did
like to
talk,
move.
we talked about that too, Lindsay, within the executive board on the sustaining this for the next 6 months too. It's a concern.
I think what we have, if I'm not mistaken, Mel, what we have right now on hand, we're covered. It's just in the future is what we're really going to watch out for. But this is such an important thing we're doing, and we're taking a big shot all at once, and we want to get it through. So I think that, in my opinion, if we get it through, it's worth the money, you know. So, all right, Stacy, did you have any comment? Were you?
No,
Okay.
I see that Anne made a motion and I will second her motion. Anne in the chat.
Okay. Okay, I'll open my
thank you.
chat pod. Okay, so you're going to second. All right. So Anne, I assume you're still taking notes. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the MOU extension. All those in favor say aye or type aye.
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 Okay, motion. Those opposed, no? Sorry. Okay, motion carried. The next thing we have to cover is the modernization initiative. And Phil had sent all the proposals out. I do know that there was one question that Mel had regarding the notification system. So do you want to talk about that, Phil?
Sure. So we actually received 2 comments. One was from Geraldine and the other one from Melissa. And I would kind of consider them to be minor typographical errors. And if you'll bear with me, I can identify those as we go through the materials. What I would suggest is, and please trust me, I don't have the voice to read through everything. So I am going to go over the highlights here and give you a status report on things relating to the legislative initiative. in your packet, I'm not going to ask you to say anything about it in the interest of time, but there is a memo from Census to just providing an update about the status of outreach discussions with recorders, and then by extension, their discussions with their supervisors, their legislators, their local stakeholder groups. And I just refer that to you for your reference. The substance of this discussion is covered in my memo to you that you'll find on page 5 of your materials, pages 5 and 6, which is the status of the draft legislation. My general recommendation to start out with, which I shared with several of the leaders in an email yesterday, but I'll basically repeat it for everybody here, is to give a provisional approval of the overall package, okay? And the reason I say provisional is because we are in the thick of a discussion with the Ohio State Bar Association over a number of issues that have not been finalized, and I can confidently say that there are a few things that are going to change. I'm just very confident of that. That said, I don't think they're necessarily impossible or bad changes, but we just don't have the details of them yet. But if you set aside a few issues, such as the Bar Association concern about the impact of a $10 per page reporting fee on very large documents, that's a financial matter that options are being explored, but they haven't been finalized yet. The Bar Association needs to kind of come together, and when they come together with their thoughts, then we're going to have to bring it back to you all, both the association and the ESS committee, to talk about it. That is just an example. But as I heard with the leadership team, which includes Nancy and Lisa, but also Stacy and Megan, is that generally speaking, we're in a pretty good spot. That there seemed overall to be support for the proposal, and I think you can, with confidence, move it forward. There are some things that need to move forward soon to meet the logistical needs of the legislative process, one of which is to start getting a bill draft in the hands of the Legislative Service Agency and some of the committee chairs and leadership, so they have time to digest it. We can't really, I shouldn't say it, can't. We really shouldn't wait until after Thanksgiving to do that. We should be getting it started now. So just acknowledging that there are a few loose ends still being worked on. Generally speaking, what I'm going to go through is the package as it stands today and answer any questions. The two typographical comments, I'll deal with that as we go through. And I know everybody loves to listen to me talk, but this is just a necessary evil. So I encourage you to follow through on the memo, because that generally is the order of things that appear in your packet of materials. So the first thing I want to start with is legislation that is required to change the fee structure. And that begins on page 7 of your materials. All right. Now, I'm not going to read through this, but basically what it does is implements the $10 per page fee. This effectively eliminates the additional transaction fee, and it converts the document management fee of $1 to an allocation from the base fee in the amount of $2 per document, and it converts the $1 so-called e-commerce fee that goes to online records from an additional fee to an allocation in the amount of $3 per document. The financial models that you have seen over the last number of months are reflected in this legislation. There's really nothing that has changed about this. When we get deeper into other parts of the legislation, there are sections of 331-604 that either are moved around to another section of the code or they're eliminated. Okay, but the fee structure itself is represented here. And another change that was discussed was modifying the method of allocating the funds that would be directed to ESS and our land records to a method that instead of going to the state treasurer's office, it would come directly to ESS. I can report to the governing boards here that we attempted to communicate with the state treasurer's office to determine if they had an opinion, if we should leave things the same, or we should, if they'd be okay with changing it. My interpretation is that they really do not wish to express an opinion because they have not been communicating with us. They stopped answering emails, and I can't fully explain it, but we have made a valiant effort to gather their opinion, and they just will not share it with us. And this is no criticism, none intended, but we thought we'd ask their opinion, but we haven't been able to get it. So in the absence of that, what do we want to do? And we're recommending we might as well just have it come to ESS. It would be so much easier for everybody. So those are the main elements that I am representing here. You'll see a few words that are highlighted in blue, and these are just editorial changes. For example, where it says transition, we were using the word change twice in the same sentence, and it just sounded awkward. So we changed that word to transition. Okay. Then on page 9, you will see a number of footnotes. And without going through all of them, basically the footnotes explains what happens to certain things that are eliminated from Section 331-604. For example, there was a back to blue section in there that says we have to redact certain information and run a redaction program. We're not eliminating that, we're just moving it to a different section of the code. There are other provisions that relate to the authority and purpose of the electronic services system in the old legislation known as the County Land Record Information System, and those things are being moved to a modified version of 331-605B. Okay, and so if changes are being made, you're going to see those show up in another section of the code. If things are going to stay the same, you're going to see those show up in a different section of the code. Pardon me. Are there any questions about the fees section? Okay.
I do have a question,
Yes.
sorry. So do you think the Bar Association will propose, do you have any idea where they're going to go with that?
You mean with the
Don't think
large
they would pay
document?
$10, yeah.
I cannot speak for them, but based on conversations thus far, I think that there is a good chance that they will recommend a cap. Okay, something that is not. It's not as high as $10 a page, but it's maybe something closer to what they are paying now for a large document. So, and we need to give them a chance to communicate with us on this, but we know it is a blocker for them. They're having trouble with just, if you have a 150-page document, going from $5 a page to $10 a page is, a bigger bite. But we know from the data that we have looked at we've gone back and looked at data, beginning in January of 2023. And there are just a few hundred documents that are of that magnitude, 50 pages or larger. I think that there is some middle ground here that can be approached. We don't know exactly what that is. We need to hear from them yet. But I don't think that issue is going to be a big blocker. I think it can be resolved. But we just haven't done that yet. So that's how I have to answer it today.
No, that's good, thank you.
Yeah. Other questions? Okay. Then I'm moving on to page 10. And page 10 is the beginning of various things that would be brought together into a new section of the code that would provide, I'm just going to say, a coherent place to look and find everything you need to know about the governance of ESS and our languages. Because right now it's scattered in 4, 5, 6 different sections of the code. And you can see that those include, just very briefly, language relating to a 28E agreement is under 331-601A, language prohibiting us from transferring information in batch format is in 331-603. In the current 331-605B, that's where our language is for the $3 e-submission fee. And then there are other things that could be moved there, such as if you go to page 11 and look at some of those items, some of that information is being moved from 331-604. Some of it is being moved from, I think, 331-601A, I think it is, where there's a limitation of liability. And there's also a requirement in 331-604 that says that everybody has to participate. Okay, so all of those things are being moved into a single section of the code. So there are also corresponding amendments that strike it from those other sections of the code. So we're doing two things at the same time. If you read through this, and we have shared this with the stakeholder groups, we're not seeking any new authority. We're not going to try and relitigate the batch prohibition. We're just trying to bring together these sections into the code. Now, if you go back to page 10 and talk about the things that are in there, what we tried to do is there are purpose statements in 331-604, and then there are purpose statements in the current version of 331-605B, and then there are some new things that we're asking for the authority to do that relate to some of the initiatives. So one of those is the ability to run a notification system. That doesn't exist anywhere in the code, and all we're just trying to do is say we would have the authority to operate a system of notifying users of transactional activity associated with their property or other public services. This is the first of the edits that were suggested from Melissa. Melissa, I'm going to steal your thunder and just go ahead and say it. That she expressed a question about the idea of the name notification system. So in this particular phrase, we were not trying to say what all the different types of elements of the notifications are. We just wanted to put in the code that we could do a notification system. But she pointed out that it might be appropriate to give a reference to a name notification system. And so my suggested edit to item H, which is on the top of page 11, is just simply to add the words names into that last phrase. So it would read activity associated with their property, names, or other public services. And that would cover it. And Melissa, I'll pause and say, did I capture your suggestion?
Yeah, sounds good. My only other comment would be, would it be possible to move H up a page under G? It looks like there's enough room, just so it's all together.
Yeah, when we redo the redrafting of this document, we can put them together.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
That was
do
just
have
a
a question.
pagination thing.
This Nancy, I
Yes.
do have a question. I apologize. Since I've been out, I have not had an opportunity to thoroughly read this, but if I am correct on that page 10, paragraph 2 you take out the governing board, shall not enter into agreement to provide records on a batch basis. So is this where you're saying, because it had been talked about, that land records, ILR would provide these monthly documents to these people that request them? Is that part of that? What you're
No.
intending? Okay,
No, you also have to look at page 11, item 4, that language that says, shall not enter
I
into
see it now.
agreement.
sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, like I
So
say,
we're
I have
just
not had
moving
a
it from
chance to
one
go through
section
this.
to another.
Okay, like I said, since I've been out, I have not had a chance to
Yep.
look at all
No,
this.
very
Sorry.
fair question. Thank you.
So none of that's changed.
Nothing has changed there. There's no intent to change. I will stand on the rooftops and say, we're not changing anything, because I don't want anybody to be concerned or upset. That we're really just trying to make a coherent governance section, and then we're adding just a few things like the notification system to the enumerated list, just so we're covered. Now, not to go off on a tangent, but we have other documents that thoroughly explain what the notification system would be and how it would work. And when a legislator or others want to tell us more about that, we're ready to have that conversation. But we don't need a full-fledged, multi-section bill to do that. We can just say it. We'll do that. We'll do it. And that's what we're going for here. Okay. So that, the pages that follow on page 12 and 13, they are not a part of the bill. They're just explanatory sections to help readers understand, okay, what are you moving and why are you moving it? That's just an explanatory thing. So, for example, at the bottom of page 13, it says limitation of liability. Well, right now that is in 33160A, 606A, subsection 7. We want to keep it, but it probably doesn't belong where it currently is. It would make more sense to be in a coherent section. So that's what we're doing, and hopefully it makes sense. Okay. Any questions about the governance stuff? Everybody okay? All right. Then the next section I want to highlight, and the reason I put it third is because we are taking it out of 331-604. That's where it is now. Didn't want to wait until the very end to explain how this is going to work. So, in
Okay, that's special.
pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Okay, real quick, there's 3 people that have joined online, Travis Case, Jan Gamar, and Kim Painter.
Okay, very good. So we are on page 14 of the packet. part of the rationale for doing this is that the Bath the Blue statute, as it exists today, got thrown into 321-604, and it does not belong there. It's not related to funding. Why the legislature chose to do that, we don't know. But we do have another section of the code that addresses privacy issues, 321-606A. So maybe we should put it there. So that's decision one. Whatever we do on Bath the Blue, let's put it where it belongs in the show. Then, the question was, are we doing anything different? And the rationale for doing something different is that we are doing exactly what the legislature told us to do, but it's really not providing much benefit to anybody. And the law enforcement community knows it. So maybe we should be proactive and do something about it, because when we move this from one section of the code to another, somebody might think, I have an idea. Let's do something different. And we may or may not like whatever they come up with. So maybe it makes sense to be proactive about it. So there are two things on this page and the next page that would address this. One of them is, okay, we could just move the current code to the new section and see what happens. Or we can be proactive and say, we think we can do it better. And fortunately, because we belong to PREA and the American Land Title Association belongs to PREA, they developed a best practices for shielding, how to do it right. And basically doing it right means you provide the shielding service, but you allow the people in the real estate industry who need access to the information to still have access to it. And that's what we're proposing to do here. So the way it would work briefly is there would still be an application process pretty similar to what we already do, okay? Somebody said, but they'd say, they wouldn't say, I want a redaction, they'd say, I want shielding, okay? And we would know what that meant. And then we have the ability, with some development, this is not something I can flip a switch on, but with some development, we can designate individual documents as being shielded so that the general population can't see it. And we can also create a permission class that would allow certain users, such as real estate attorneys who are a member of the bar, or people that are blessed by Dylan at the end of the table, and say, you have permission to see this. And in addition to that, if the person at risk, shall we say, gave the written permission to give their banker permission to see it as they review the loan, we could do it that way too. So there's work to be done to make this happen, but we believe it would be workable. And so those two options are on the table. At this moment in time, we are probably going to recommend advancing the current statute to be a part of the initial bill draft. And the reason for that is that we have been attempting to communicate with the Sheriff's Association and others to gather their input on it, and we just have not heard back from them yet. So this is something that I think we should seriously consider, but until those discussions are completed, we might as well just move the status quo from one spot to the other. Questions?
There's a question online from Anne. Will Back the Blue also recognize and include the married spouse's name in a redaction process? So it's no longer going to be redaction. The entire document will be shielded.
Right.
So
So a shielding would not be just a removal of a person's name, like a law enforcement officer, it would shield the entire document. And not only shield the document, but also shield it from the search results as well. So if we said that document is shielded, it would not show up in the search results, and you could not view the image.
On Iowa land records, but
On
if
Iowa.
somebody went to the county recorder's office, indeed, they would still be able to see those documents.
The legislation originally, and this would only apply to things that are online, okay? Now, if a county had their own website, the law would apply, okay, to you too. But this
What
is,
about the index?
a shielding would, I would just read it to you. Means restricting access to document or information associated with a qualified individual which is posted through an internet site. And our interpretation of that would be, and our intent would be with respect to Iowa land records, both index information and the document images. The other thing that is different about this that I've received a question about, so let me be transparent, and that is right now the current legislation only applies to assessors and recorders. The way this is written, it would apply to any county information posted online. I don't know what that is, but it would apply. If there's an internet site with a person's name and information online, then it would apply to that too.
So I have a question on the qualified individual, number 2, which says a former peace officer who presents evidence that there is a compelling safety interest. Who determines that?
Well, first of all, that is directly out of the current statute, so we're not trying to change that.
I've not had one that's a former, all mine are current.
So it could be a current law enforcement officer who maybe was previously a supervisor or something like that, or it really could be anybody that could provide compelling evidence that there was a danger. The law is not more specific than that.
But who signs off?
Yeah, who signs off on it? Who determines that? Because I don't want to have to do that. I'm not a law enforcement officer, so I don't.
Yeah.
I mean.
So if I'm in the county recorder's position, I would do what many already do, and that is I need somebody else to certify that, and then I'll sign off on it. So,
I'm thinking currently, as an elected official, the county sheriff cannot have their records redacted. So if they retire, leave office, whatever, they may want them, but I think your question is valid.
well, in other words, my short answer is the recommendation for a recorder would be it needs to be somebody that's in law enforcement or somebody that's in the courthouse that is a judge or somebody else to make that judgment.
Because the next one right below it says a victim of domestic abuse has to be confirmed by a judge or a court officer.
Yes.
So you're being more strict on domestic violence than you are a former peace officer. That's the way I interpret it anyway, is the domestic violence doesn't go before a judge, where the police officer can just come in and say, I feel like I'm in danger. Is that my call?
I guess, where does it say that they're required to have?
So 2B of the form.
That's right, I get it on the form, it says.
Former law enforcement, employment verification, I certify, and then somebody below is the certifying authority name and title and position, their signature. I certify that the requester listed above is a former peace officer or civilian employee of a law enforcement agency with the organization listed above, and that I am their former supervisor or another law enforcement official. Familiar.
Yeah, I think she's talking about E on there, the third point. That's a question about the domestic, Natalie.
Yeah.
E, the third one.
Well, my
answer
to your question was, is that in as many respects as we could, we tried not to change the statute. this is what the legislature said they wanted, okay, we can still do that. But then when we were considering, can or should this be extended to somebody else that might not be a law enforcement officer, what standard should we use? And that's where we came up with the judge or the court officer. Yes, Nancy?
Yeah, I'm going to read you a comment from Kim Painter. It may not be appropriate for me to comment, but is this being run past all our stakeholders? This is a seismic change, property records, for bank attorneys and title companies. They are accustomed to relying cycle long on our records for many of their due diligence efforts for home, equity loan, etc. This was our original concern, and it's why we don't have this currently in place for our recorded documents in IR. I would anticipate serious pushback from many stakeholders against this change in the legislation. Sorry if I'm missing something here, and sorry if this is not a good place for me to comment.
So my answer to you is, yes, this is being run by the stakeholders. This has been shared with the ILTA group. This has been shared with the bankers and the real estate attorneys. Yes, they have seen this. I think they are thinking about it, is the way I would describe it. Nobody has said, no, we can't do that. And I think there has been an appreciation that the people in the real estate industry who would need to see it would have the authority to do so. And that's where the other section of the code comes in. So I'm not trying to suggest to you that anybody in those groups has fully endorsed this, but it has been presented to them, and I believe that we're following the best practices recommended by the American Land Title Association. So that's as far as I can go, and but
This is Megan. I have a question, Phil. It really concerns me. It really concerns me that we're not getting information from the people this actually truly affects. And I just think we need their opinion.
This is,
Well,
this is Mel, and
And he,
Wait a minute, one at a time, Natalie, go.
I did speak with my sheriff a little bit about it, and he's always wanted it to be like we're the spouse or the joint tenant. I mean, that's just one sheriff I know, but you know, that could have been more and added.
yeah.
Great, Mel, comment?
I guess I've been working with you guys, Phil, since this about my deputy that's on the legislative committee for the Sheriff's Association. So I guess I wasn't aware there was a problem when he provided the contacts. If you need me to reach out and let him know that we haven't heard any feedback, I can. But I was kind of helping with that. I wasn't aware that they weren't responding.
Well, this has been a relatively recent discussion, so I think my recommendation is we kind of still need to follow protocol and see what happens. I know that Bob and Nick have been reaching out again to see if they have any comment. So the reason the information is being presented to you, again, provisionally, is that both options are still on the table. And we haven't fully sorted it out yet. So we are reaching out to the stakeholders. We are reaching out to the law enforcement community, and it just is not settled yet. So from a strategy perspective, what we would recommend today, and I think I said this earlier, is that unless something changes, we would advance the current statute, okay, without really any changes. Now, if something changes and the law enforcement community says, yes, this is what we want, then we can provisionally revisit that. But because we don't have that input yet, we would probably recommend sticking with the current statute. But let them know we might be open to an amendment. Okay? That's where we are today.
It was a very poorly written bill, and to be quite honest, the lawmakers didn't ask us, which was very stupid on their part. I mean, to create a bill that is not going to do anything and
Made them look good.
well, and the governor knew this wasn't going to do anything. And I'm not going to get political about it, but she created this, or they created this bill that did absolutely nothing. So at the very least, that these peace officers don't want their name shared in public. They don't want somebody to be able to search their name and find their spouses, but that's not doing anything. All we're doing is redacting a name off of a document. Correct. That's all we were asked to do. So the bill, I actually think that this is great that we are being proactive, because it shows that we care about the peace officers and we understand what their intent is, and we're trying to protect them without messing with the system. So I think this is great that we're doing something proactive, because it makes the recorders look, say, hey, they did a very poor trade legislation that made us look bad, because I have police officers come to my office and say, hey, this is all I can do according to this law. You have to know that. You need to go to your lawmakers and get something better. I think that this is great, because we are saying this is good for us, and this is going to be good for the people that need to get access to these records, the bankers, the land records people, and I like it. I mean, I want to do something for these peace officers and for people that have domestic abuse. I think this is great.
Okay.
I was
Some online comments.
Can I ask about the form though? I mean, the form, I don't think we should add the spouse's name. People are talking about that because they are not mentioned in section 801.4. It's strictly the officer. So I wouldn't want to have the name of the spouse on there. I mean, if they're on that document, fine, they're included. But I don't want them to think we're going to shield things with their names because somebody might know the spouse's name, because that is not what the law says. The law strictly mentions the officer, not spouses. So unless they change that, I would not want that spouse name on my form.
Then that poses the question, if you're doing shielding and you're including the index in that, do you have a way of only taking the officer's name out and leaving the spouses?
Well, the record is the record.
Right.
And the parties to the record are part of the record. So if you're shielding,
You're going to shield them
anyway.
anyway.
You're shielding the parties and the document itself.
I kind of agree with Julie too. I think it's far better, but I do have a concern with the second paragraph on that page, second to last paragraph, about kind of what I think of as kind of trailing confidentiality. There and two, where eligible professionals agree to maintain the confidentiality. I think that creates an issue of an abstractor taking a shielded deed and putting it in their abstract, because they're no longer necessarily making that document confidential. I think we talked before about the idea of the protected individual agreeing to have the documents, but I think it needs to be fleshed out a little more. If, to me, that says to the kind of recorder you can release the information, not necessarily other people you can release the information. So I have a concern from an industry perspective on that trailing confidentiality and what that could mean realistically for a real estate transaction.
Well, we can work to refine that language. Part of the rationale for it is, for example, the members of our team all have to sign a confidentiality agreement with the Iowa Department of Revenue, so that we're protecting the confidentiality of people who are affected by state tax liens or lien releases, because we get to see that before they're recorded, right? Now, the department hasn't required that same thing of county recorders yet, but as a service provider, they do require us to do it, and we agree to it. You know, and the issue is, I'm going to pick on Lisa. Lisa should not be sharing information that she learns about taxpayers with the body politics, with the public at large. That's something that we should take seriously. And I think the way we would, if we need to switch the language in some way, perfectly okay for somebody in the profession, real estate profession, to examine a record that's shielded for their business purposes. But it's a different thing to, say, well, now I've seen it, now I can go post that on a message board or whatever. They shouldn't be doing that.
I agree with that, but it is a little different too, where an abstractor's role is to provide that information to other parties, right? Lisa's role isn't to provide the information she sees on land records to other people. That is the abstracting attorney's role. So it is a little bit of a nuance from there, because again, if they post that deed in an abstract and that abstract goes out to the lender, the realtor, the buyer's realtor, those are not eligible professionals under the statute. So, similarly, I think that's thing about swearing, creating an
I think there's, now that you've raised the question, there's opportunity to refine that.
I'm going to go back and read all the comments we have, okay? Initially, it was from Anne. I hope the new moved improved back to blue will actually offer true protection to the qualified individuals and their spouses. It does not. Mel responded, is explained that any co-owner, co-signer listed on the document with a qualified individual will also have their name shielded from indexing and the document shielded as well. My understanding is if you submit a request for shielding, the document image, the index information for any parties listed would no longer be available for that document. So I think that covers that. And their names are not listed on the form. We have them complete. That is correct, because it doesn't apply to them. Currently, it applies to the law enforcement professional. And like Mel said, it will be shielded. Tim Painter, would the same flow-through functionality be at work with this change to back the blue as is used now? By that I mean, will ILR receive our request for the shielding as defined under this new version and then feed it back into our home systems as it happens now? I think that's up to the service provider, correct?
Well, because we aren't doing that yet, I don't fully know the answer to that. But, if we redact something, we make the redacted version available to the county, okay? And the county can download that, and then the local service provider can apply that or, make sure that that's the record that is visible to their public. If this were to be implemented, we would likely make a change to our process so that we could return information to the county to say, hey, this document is shielded. But that does not exist yet.
Okay.
Can I ask a question real quick? Why would we want it to come back shielded to our office?
Why would the county want it to come back shielded to them?
I was just answering the question. If the county, for example, let's just pick Polk County, they have their own website. They provide access to information. If we pass a message on to Polk County that says, hey, we feel that this document, their developers, their service provider could take advantage of that and do the same thing without, then you wouldn't have to have a separate, application process or anything because you could take advantage of whatever that we did. But the mechanism for that today does not exist, okay? We haven't invented that yet, and our intention would be to do so.
But you're saying that would only be for her website, not within her office?
Right.
Those would not be shielded?
Focused on the website.
Right.
Right.
Wouldn't be shielding your actual index.
So-
I don't have a website, so my documents would be fine.
Yeah, I think perhaps she might be asking, does it mean on her system, the record will also be shielded, or will she be able to have an original? That might be part of the question she has.
I think all of these are very good questions that we do not have to answer today, okay? This is stuff that would be developed and further refined. Why are we, you know, I forget who it was that asked me way back when, why is this in our issue? Why are we dealing with it? Well, it's our issue because it's in your section of the code. That's why it's your issue. And also because of the overall reforms and changes that we're making, it's going to be amended in some way. And so if it's going to be amended in some way, that means that it's eligible for somebody else to amend it. And you may not necessarily like whatever somebody else comes up with, so maybe we should be proactive and come up with something that, you know, conforms to ALTA best practices or, you know, whoever you follow. But I would just say that, as I've said before, you know, legislative process is dynamic and there are opportunities for change and amendment and refinement. And the other thing is that not only are we mitigating the risk of something unintended to happen, but if we actually did a good job of this, I think it would be both support for the passage of your bill, you know, and help us achieve the bigger picture objective, which is to achieve the fee increase, right? So there are different layers to this, and I think we legitimately presented it to everyone. Believe me, we've presented this to everyone, you know, we're open to amendment. We are not necessarily driving what every policy is. We know that the sheriffs and law enforcement, they're going to weigh in. The stakeholders, including Dylan, they're going to weigh in, and they're going to be suggested tweaks and changes. From our perspective, we just want it to be workable, okay, practical, implementable, and I believe we can do that. Unless somebody does something really crazy, there's nothing you've talked about today that I don't think we can respond to technically. So that doesn't really concern me. So for this discussion, today, what I'm presenting to you is, this is the research that we've done, that my recommendation today, provisionally, is that go draft the advance with current law, okay? And then we see where it goes, because we haven't heard back from everybody yet. That's what
I have some more comments online. From Melissa, have we received feedback from the judges? I believe this is Aaron, because all it says is Boone, Iowa. If we're being proactive, shouldn't we address the known issues with it? And right now, it's not currently including the spouses, that would be an improvement to the law. Okay, so, and I think you understand what the process would be. I don't believe it's going to say that as a spouse of a law enforcement officer, if you have a document that only you are named on, not the spouse, not the law enforcement officer, that one would not be shielded. But as part of it, if you and the law enforcement officer are on a document together, that one will be shielded.
I think you're all getting way too deep into the weeds on this at this moment in time. Okay?
Okay.
All right. And we have other very important things to cover, okay. So allow me to continue, if you will.
Okay. Mel, the deputy who serves on the legislative committee, does want spouse's name shielded. Wouldn't the abstract be okay because you have access to the record in our office? And have we asked our service providers about if this could be done on our local systems? And Lindsay said this does not affect our local systems unless it is, you have your own internet site, such as Polk County currently does. Kim, for our public website, to redact it for the new law, as Phil described it. And Kim Painter's dropping off. Okay.
She's added up.
Her work here is complete.
Okay. All right, I'm moving on. So the next main section here is our favorite 321-606B, document formatting. And the first, I'm going to go through I'm going to summarize each of the major sections and give you the status on it. So section 1 are the technical formatting standards, and that really is unchanged. I'm not going to go more deeply into it than that. We changed a number of things. It does set the minimum font size is 10 point and so on. It does provide the alternative stamp area as opposed to the top 3-inch margin. But generally speaking, section 1 of 321-606B has been fairly stable. Stakeholders haven't really come back and said, oh, change this. Generally, it's been a fairly stable section, and we really haven't made any substantive change there. 321-606B subsection 2, on the other hand, has been a deeper discussion with the Bar Association, not so much with the other stakeholder groups. I have had a few conversations with Dylan about it, but beyond that, we've not really received a lot of comment. There are two main things that are happening here, and maybe the right way to say it is that are not happening here. And they are that in the earlier versions of this, we did include language that would require the preparer to submit post-legal description information, not just the long meets and bounds one. And we did more explicitly require them to include postal identification numbers in their prepared documents so that it would be easier for you to index them. The Bar Association did not support either of those things. And for that reason, the current language before you simply reverts to the current statute. So if you look at item H, it basically is the same as the current law. So that means that the changes that we're making in subsection 2 are fairly modest. We're adding in the option to include an email address of the preparer. We are adding the term or type to the reference to the title of the instrument. We are clarifying the language in item I that we believe actually is intended to mean associated references, and we just want to state it more plainly. And then there is an additional sentence that's added at the end, although not part of the required enumerated items, to just simply say that a document or instrument may also contain the contact information of the person best able to address any issue with the reportability of the document or instrument. So this turned into an ambitious, we're going to improve the preparer's work to a fairly modest set of changes. And while I do not have the official word from the Bar Association yet, I predict that this will be acceptable to them. Still waiting to hear a final word from them, but that is there. Then in subsection 3, that has also been modified. For a brief window of time, the Bar Association was really interested in the idea of using an index legend, and then they changed their mind. And the reason they changed their mind, and I'm oversimplifying here, is that it was something that could be a source of an error, and I guess I just didn't want to get into this refined discussion about distinguishing between recording information and the body of the document. And so that has been set aside. But what we are doing is including a more explicit statement saying, hey, cover sheets are okay. You can do that. Because the current statute doesn't say that, but it doesn't say anything about cover sheets. And then it retains the idea of including a page reference, you know, if you don't have room on the first page or the cover sheet. And that seems to be fairly non-controversial. Item 4, currently, if you look at the current statute, item 4 relates to surveyor information. But in a little bit, we're going to be talking about how we're going to create a whole new section of the code just for surveyors, so we don't need that anymore. But we have had a suggestion that we need some sort of language that puts some guardrails around documents with multiple transactions of some kind. We're getting rid of the additional transaction fee that Julie and others have rightly said, what's going to happen? This could be abused. Okay, I shouldn't say it that way. But those preparers out there, you never know what they're going to do. They're going to start mashing up a bunch of unrelated things into the same document just to save a few bucks in recording fees. That's maybe an oversimplification, but that's the basic idea. So we have advanced the language in what is now a new version of subsection 4 that would say a document or instrument which executes a transaction shall be applicable only to the parties participating in the same transaction. Basically, it's an attempt to try to say, in words that people can understand, you shouldn't be doing this mashup stuff. Okay? Now, if you have one party that owns a bunch of leases for wind farm locations, well, you may have a bunch of other people out there, but you still got one common party. And if you have that kind of coherency, it should be okay. So this has been presented to the bar, and they're the best ones to help answer this. And we have invited them to opine on, do you have a better way to say this, or do you agree that's an issue or not? And we don't have the word yet on that. So for the purposes of moving forward, we keep the suggested language to sort of keep the issue alive, but we don't have a final resolution to it yet. I will share with you, based on my conversations with people from the bar, that there is a even chance that they will come back and say, you're worried about nothing, this is not a big issue. Okay? I have heard from some reporters who've identified examples of, you know, these multiple transaction things. But as I interpret it and looked at it, it really is just the same kind of additional transaction today. And the real comment is, I wish we didn't get rid of additional transaction fees. And that's really the underlying thing. So I don't really think that there is anything that I have seen so far that would be just really horrible if it happened. It just sort of isn't a run-of-the-mill multiple transaction thing. If any of you have them, I'd love to see them, but I haven't seen them so far. And the premise, I think, is still the same. That, yes, there are going to be those occasions where there's going to be more indexing because there's a lot of related stuff in the same document. But from a financial point of view, it's not a big deal from a reporting income perspective. I think we covered $38,000 in income from this in a year. So,
well, I think that the additional transaction fees just prohibited them from doing it. It just didn't make sense. Might as well make it clean and do. So that's what the additional transaction fees is. I just didn't want it to start up again. We don't get that many, but I mean, because it costs them the same amount of money, so it makes no sense to do it that way. But I just didn't want it to start.
Yeah, and so
I appreciate it.
Yeah, but and the feedback from the board so far has been, we don't think it's a good idea to do a mashup either, you know? So, anyway, the language that is intended to provide some guardrails is still here. And the jury is still out, so to speak, on will it pass muster with the bar, or will they have a different suggestion? So it's still in play, but in here, okay? Then, the language in item 6 relating to notifying the user of the reason for a declined document is the same as it's been for months. And the repeal of subsection 7 relating to the non-standard fee and the authority to decline a document, that is the same. Basically, the authority to decline a document is stated in opening paragraph number 1 in 331-601. And so that is as is, and there are also a few footnotes on page 19, but I don't have any further comments. So generally speaking, the elements that were creating the most concern have been removed, and particularly in 331-606B2. Also, I overlooked this. Remember, we were talking about adding section count and range to the index information for platted land. That has also been removed. So this is kind of back to mostly status quo, except for a few word changes. Okay, we good? All right, that brings us to page 20. And page 20 address the required indexing for conveyance documents. So the first one I call out is, I've highlighted this on the screen if you're looking at that, but there's a typo here. So the current code says in the opening sentence, the recorder must keep index records to show the following. And generally the convention in law is either may or shall. So the intention was just to replace must with shall. So the word must should have had a strike through it, and there should have been an underline under shall. And that this is the item that Joe pointed out. So assume that correction is made. Then item 3, we did review this with the bar, and so far the bar has agreed that wherever the term filed is currently used in the code, and there are 3 of them, it really means recorded, okay? Not when somebody gives it to you, it's when you record it. And there seems to be an agreement with that. The idea of the date of the instrument, clarifying that it's when it's executed by the parties. And then we've clarified that if there is a variance, that it's the most recent date that you index, not multiple dates. And that seems to have garnered some support. Item 5 is, as we talked about in another section, the legislature at some point in the past said they understood what the nature of the instrument meant. But what they really mean is the type of the instrument or the title of the instrument. So we're changing that. Nothing in item 6. While the preparers, including the bar, said that they did not want to provide information in a parse format, they just wanted to keep doing what they were doing. Recorders do index by parse location information. The current code is not that explicit, so we are just saying current practices parse description, and it is what it is. That's what item 7 is. Item 8 Again, recorders do index by associated references. We have policy on that. So we're just saying that more clearly. And then the parcel identification number is still something that should be indexed. But I've heard you loud and clear that you want it to be present. So the qualification is the parcel identification number, when present on a document, should be indexed. And if there's a new parcel identification number, that should be indexed too, but we got the qualifier when feasible. Feasible means when it's possible, you know, when it's reasonable to do it. But it can't always be. If you can't get it from your auditor, it may not be feasible to index it. So
I have a question about that. This is Megan.
Yes.
So when you're saying that a recently recorded conveyance document, I'm indexing from something I recorded. If that parcel number is not on there, you're asking me to go ahead and index that on something that's not recorded?
No, not at all.
So what is that?
So
What do you mean then?
Let's say a conveyance document is recorded, that is submitted or filed, and then you record it. You would, if you knew the parcel identification number, you would index that, right? And then
If it's on the document.
Yeah. And then at a later point in time, if it was a consolidation or a subdivision, and you were able to learn later that a new parcel identification number was created, then if it was feasible for you to get that information, then that should be indexed in addition to, not replace it, but in addition to, so that someone would be able to search for that record using either the previous parcel ID number or the new one.
But I think she's asking, which, correct me if I'm wrong, Megan, it's none of those parcel numbers are on the actual document.
No, absolutely not. But you're saying I shall do that. I'm not going to go back and get, once I record a document that I purchase a property, and then I know what the parcel number is from the assessor and auditor after they split that. I'm not going to go in my index and put that when that's not on the recorded document.
I understand that. That's why it says when present on a document.
But then it also says
Okay.
in the next
I guess I don't read it that way, but.
Sorry, can you hear me?
I think she's talking about the very last line that says updated parcel.
I can hear
shall
you,
be
Mel.
added to the index of any recently recorded.
Yeah,
So
it
what you're
says
saying
shall.
there is not, if there's a split, it won't be
Yeah.
on the new deed going through, because they won't have it yet. But you're wanting us to go back and get it and put it on?
Well,
I'm assuming your document formatting standard committee has had this discussion. I don't participate in those. That's just the question I had. I'm not going to put something on a document that is not, I'm not going to index it if it's not on the document. And I'm not going to go back and do that either. So I guess I won't be in compliance.
I appreciate that opinion,
Maybe we should.
and I'm not trying to be disagreeable, but I would state the position that indexing parcel identification numbers is something that should be pursued, okay, going forward. And there are some counties, I know, who have a relationship with their auditor's office, and they share information, sometimes physically, sometimes programmatically. And when that happens, and you have the information, it is a good thing to index it. Because if you index it, then you can search for records using the parcel identification number. I want to put this in the context of, even though the Bar Association didn't want to do it, and the ILTA didn't want to do it either, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad idea. And I want everybody to keep in mind, and you may disagree with me, and that's okay, that we are presenting ideas to improve our data, to improve our system, to make it better so that our stakeholders will appreciate it and maybe support a fee increase that everybody wants to have happen. So before we say, I'm never going to do that, consider that our objective is we need to continue to pursue improvement, and that is part of modernization, and that's what may be compelling to a user or a stakeholder or a legislator to say, yeah, I can support that fee increase. If you disagree with me, I respect that. But
This is Nancy.
That is the rationale.
Well, this is Nancy, and I had disagreed with that at first too, because I don't get anything from my auditor, and I'm asking them, and I think I just saw that Mel said something too. My auditor doesn't give me that. I'm not going to ask another office to do something that my office may, or you guys may want on there. And it also opens more room for error. And then I have to go searching for these, making sure I get that right document. I need the prior number and now this current number. I don't like the word shall at all. I think Mel has suggested the word may. I would be okay with the word may, but I'm not going to go back and index things either that aren't on that document. I personally don't think we should put shall in there.
Erin has made a comment. It says we index parcel numbers when they are on the document, except the transfer document. Parcel numbers change, and it can take months for the assessor to just click combine and then provide it back to us. I agree this needs to be changed.
But doesn't this wording, these kind of get you off the hook as words, right?
I think from other conversations that we've had before, I heard reporters say, when president of the document, I'll index it. I've heard you say that. And then
It's the word updated parcel.
No. Okay, I started the conversation. I'm not saying that I'm not indexing a parcel number on a deed. What I'm telling you is that how you have this listed is that if that deed does not have a parcel number on it, Megan Kleiman to Nancy Booten, and it comes back, it's not going to be re-recorded. The auditor is going to tell me, oh, here's the parcel number, which she never gives me. That new parcel number is not on the recorded document, period. So how you have this written is updated parcel information shall be added to the index of any recently recorded conveyance document. I mean, I don't know what I'm not understanding or you're understanding about what I'm asking. It's not being re-recorded.
I think I'm more in favor of just taking.
You're asking me to put something on that's not on the recorded document. Am I not right?
I do not mean to be disagreeable.
I don't care whether you disagree or not. I'm just asking you.
We are seeking to improve the system. And I totally understand that when an initial document comes in and the parcel ID number is not there, that you're not going to go research that. But it is a good idea to index parcel identification numbers.
By the Bar Association.
And I will index those if they're on the document.
They're just saying they don't want it as a requirement on the document.
Right.
Right.
So,
Yeah, you're
if
right.
you want to have a requirement, then.
And ITLA didn't care either.
Right. When I have a conveyance document that comes through, or a mortgage, there's a parcel ID number on there. I have been indexing that parcel ID, okay? I have solutions. We have a option that says update parcel ID numbers, okay? Yeah, I have it turned on. I've been using it for years, okay? I take that option when I send my records to ILR every night. I do that option, so whatever parcel ID gets updated from the auditor's office, the assessor's office, it relates back to that document. That's what I do.
So Lynn, is all your system under solutions, your auditor and all that?
Yes.
Okay, so they all have it in the database.
And I think the when feasible gets us off, gets you off the hook. I think because.
I think so too.
Because some recorder, like your auditor, assessor has access.
Right.
My auditor and assessor do not, and they do not give me the parcel numbers. And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It'd be nice if, what I would probably do is get them on so they can just add it themselves. But I think when feasible, it all depends on your process. Like our process can be auditor adds it after it's recorded. So they never send it back to me. If they send it back to me, and if it's feasible, and if I have time, I will add, if we are sitting around doing nothing. But I understand your question though, Megan. It's like it's not on there on the recorded document. So I think the when feasible gets us off the hook a little bit, but but I get it.
Yeah, I'm done
That's
talking
also-
about it. It's fine, I'm done.
Feasible is also an arguable word too, so I like the word may.
It seems to,
As we go through this,
it seems that we're in consensus that changing the word shall to may allows those of us like myself and Jolynn that are adding those later, because we have those capabilities to do so, but those who are not, they still are not required by law to do so. Is my opinion. It seems to be in a consensus about the may and the shall.
I agree.
I just want to be clear that as the ESS committee and the executive board, you do have the ability to suggest an amendment at this point. So I think we've articulated different ideas. I would defer to Lisa or Nancy to
Talking about amending,
accept any amendments that you might want to offer.
you're talking about amending the language on number 9? Or the whole entire
That appears to
section?
be the focus of the discussion.
Can I read online comments? Melissa, I think number 9, the second sentence should have may instead of shall. Someone also said the first sentence was incomplete. Melissa, the county auditor's office has cut staff, so it wouldn't be appropriate to require them to provide her with additional information that she would index, not located on the document. And number 9, the first sentence is incomplete, needs to be updated.
No, it's not incomplete. This is an enumerated list.
Okay.
It's not intended to be a complete sentence.
Okay. Aaron, we index parcel numbers when they are on the document except for deeds, transfer documents. Parcel numbers change and it can take months for the assessor to do a split, combine, and then provide it back to us. I agree. This needs change. Mel saying she agrees with Megan that it needs to read that way.
I think it's essential.
If it's on the document,
In the word shall. Exactly.
if it's on the document,
getting rid
index it. If it changes, it should not be a requirement for us to index a number not on the document. Shall means has to. I do not believe that feasible overrides shall. From Ann, in Dickinson County, it is assigned by GIS. After indexing of conveyance, I've asked Tyler for the communication of the work the auditor does in version X to come back automatically into Eagle. Should never be able to be, it should never need to be entered this way, and would be the most current information. Agree, changing shall to may would be best. I think this was in, yes, Lindsay, in agreement for what she said online. Okay.
So is everybody okay with changing shall to may? Would that take care of this issue? It would, in my opinion, but
Well,
On
the
number
first,
nine.
the first sentence where the recorder shall keep index records to show the following. We're already doing that anyway.
I
You know,
think the
I just, this should have been already discussed and I shouldn't have been spending, we shouldn't spend so much time on this. And I'm sorry I've started this, but I don't understand it.
So Megan, what are you suggesting that to change?
What I'm saying is that when you have a recorded document, I'm not going to index something that's not on that document. If you want to tie it together internally, whatever we do anyway, that's fine. It's on our Beacon Schneider site for the assessor site. I'm not going to put something in my system that is not on the document. That's all I'm saying. And that's just my opinion. And we can move on. This is entirely taking too much time for something so
So
simple.
Megan, if we made the part that says shall, if the parcel ID number is there, we shall index it and change.
I already do that. It says the parcel number when present on a document submitted for recording. I already do that.
Okay, but then if we change the updated parcel to read may be added to it, at the discretion of whoever wants to do it, does it, and whoever doesn't, are you okay with that? I think that's the question.
I don't care, whatever. I'm not an attorney anyway. I'm just telling you, I'm not putting something on a document after it's already recorded. And I got it from my auditor or assessor, period.
Right? Okay. Can I make that motion to amend that?
Lisa, can you go ahead
Okay,
and run this? Because I can't hear everybody anyway. So just
Yep.
run this portion here
So-
because I can't see or hear everybody.
We don't have a motion currently in the thing, right? There's no
I haven't heard
in the
one.
chat. I will make
This
the
is Mel.
motion.
Wait,
Okay, go ahead.
don't we have other sections to amend too? So back
Yes.
to adding
The
names,
name. Uh-huh.
the take out the must that's up above in this first section and the 1 and 9 weren't, now there's 3 things, right?
Right. Do we want to wait until we get all of it and do one major motion to change everything?
I wonder if we shouldn't get through it, but keep that running list, right?
Yep.
Otherwise, we're gonna miss doing the other ones.
I don't know what other one she's referring to.
Sorry. I figured the committee had already had people like me asking questions like this.
The one above there, maybe they were fine with that.
The next section also has a reference here.
Oh, yeah, I think someone wrote that up already.
Oh, okay.
Why don't you bring it up, or was it Nancy?
It was
Carolyn. We got it. Go ahead, keep going. It's what you had noted up at the top where you.
On the must of
Oh,
shall.
changing, yeah.
Yeah.
Shall is a better term, and this is intended to define the things that for conveyance documents shall be indexed. I don't necessarily have a great answer for you if limiting indexing the only things that are present on the document, or if it changes, if it's feasible for you to add the new one, if that isn't a sufficient governor or guardrail. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but, you know, really the option is just for you to strike item 9 and just say we're not going to. I don't agree with that, but that is an option. If you just want to strike item 9.
You could
This
also
is
just leave
Mel.
off the second paragraph.
What'd you say, Nancy?
You could just
It
leave
sounds
off
to
that
me like
second
everybody's
sentence.
doing things different anyway already when they're already
Yeah.
putting it in their systems. I guess I don't understand why this is an issue. And I
That's what I'm
understand,
saying.
I understand your big thing about parcel identification numbers, Phil. But I think the Bar Association has already pretty much stated they're not in agreement right now. So, yeah, I don't know.
So, but you do index it when it's on the document, correct, Megan?
We have
Okay, all right.
place
So
for it.
if,
I'm not questioning that.
yeah, so if we just leave off that sentence that says updated parcel information, that last sentence of 9, I think is fine. Because if people want to update them, they can. Because they already do, so.
Should somebody restate the motion?
I think the motion, well, the suggested changes are what Geraldine noticed at the top, changing must to shall, and number 9, striking the second sentence. Is that correct? I don't want to put in anybody's mouth.
I thought we
Yeah.
were gonna wait until we got through all of it, though.
I think it's just an overview right at this point. There's no motion.
Natalie, what's your
Okay.
question?
What was the name one at? The name one is on page 11, adding names with their property names and other public service. Okay, how much more do we have to go? Okay.
Okay. Yes.
All right, we can move that one over and if
So is that what the committee is saying?
I don't hear any objection to removing that sentence, correct? Okay, let's move on.
Okay, I need a receipt of exact motion.
We don't have a motion yet. We're gonna go through everything and then make one motion at the end, so, yep. So we're ready to move on to 331.606.
So we are
Removing,
taking the second sentence out of item 9.
Yes, yeah, correct.
Any other changes?
this particular section right here, or altogether?
Well,
With 3 right now. More pages altogether.
We're adding.
We're gonna do one motion at the,
We're changing shall from must to shall, and we're striking second sentence.
first one.
then adding the name,
On property notification,
adding
way back.
Oh, okay.
page 11.
Yeah.
That was Melissa's
Okay.
suggestion.
Yeah, okay.
Come on, come on.
All right. So, well, if you love that section, you're really gonna love the next one.
I will
So-
be quiet.
Can we move
So, there are also, updates to 321.606 relating to, general indexing requirements. And again, I would say some of these are kind of repeats, and some of them are intended to reflect current practice, I thought, and some of them are genuinely new and a change. So then, paragraph 1, mostly we're changing to current practice. We're cross-referencing back to 331.606B and 558.49. We're using the term recording instead of filing. We're changing nature and character of the instrument to type or title, assigning reference numbers to documents, and the first main thing is that it would specify going forward a standard reference numbering system for every county in the recording process, which, just to state a fact, is seemingly different in every county. If you compare reference numbers from one county to the number, you will often find the same reference number. And you can't, if you just looked at the reference number, you wouldn't know what county you're dealing with. And broadly speaking, the stakeholders through the survey and conversations have suggested that there be more consistency in the indexing of records. So the proposition, and we've run this around the block a few times, is to, going forward, probably on a date certain, say that there's going to be a standard reference number in the system for recording in Iowa, and it's going to be, as represented here, a combination of the 2-digit county number, the 4-digit year, and an 8-digit numeric reference. The sequencing would begin in January, at the beginning of the year, not July 1, as it may be in some counties. And if counties wanted to continue to use their own locally defined book and page system, they would be able to do that. And the argument for that really is twofold. One is the reference numbering system today, historically, does not actually assign a unique number to each recorded document in Iowa. It just doesn't, because many times they're the same. And it affects our land records in this case because we make the local service providers assign a unique code value to each instrument, and often the service providers are confused about what they're supposed to do. And it creates issues for us. And I'm not saying this is just about us, but I will just report that it does affect us. And so it would be better if we had a common reference numbering system for recording going forward. And we floated this particular variation out there for quite a while. Sort of suggested if anybody has a better idea, let us know. We really haven't received any better ideas. And so this would achieve the objective of consistency in indexing across the state. And I would say it's there because, again, we are saying we're going to modernize, we're going to make things better. And this is a part of that. Allow me to just continue through the rest, and then we can go back if needed. The next item, which is not currently enumerated in this section, kind of reinforces that there is an expectation for indexing associated references. The next one after that is to index park location information, which is standard practice, but it's not in the code anymore. So the idea is, hey, if this is our standard practice, let's put it in the code. I would point out that also in this section, the idea of indexing section, township, and range for platted land has been removed. So that's not there as it may have been in earlier versions of this. There is a reference to indexing additional parcel identifiers, but that's really only if the county chooses to do that. It basically says that if the county uses an additional parcel identifier, then index it. But if you don't do that, then you don't have to index it. That's the intent. Kind of repeat the discussion that we just had. The next one is when present in a document, index the parcel identification number. In this particular case, we got a little bit more specific in saying that if there is a consolidation or a subdivision and it's updated, it actually includes a requirement for the county auditor to provide that to the recorder within 6 months. And then the next one also enumerated is, but not in the current code, the statement that parcel identification numbers were previously recorded documents should not be modified unless it's for the purpose of correcting an error. And the rationale for that is just to clarify, hopefully so everybody would understand, that it's expected that a parcel identification number is a historical reference at the time that transaction took place. And there's no intent for people to go back in time and update the index for that because it's just intended to be a historical fact. The only remaining change in this section, again, as referred to earlier, is the term of art is the time of recording, not the time of filing. That's what everybody does, and the code should be updated to say that. So those are my comments. We have made changes to this, such as the removal of the reference to section, township, and range based on comments that we received. With the exception of the postal identification number topic, which you may want to discuss again, the other references are really just intended to put in the code what your current practices are. And then the big one, at least I predict might be the big one, is a decision to say, going forward, we're going to have a standard recording reference numbering system.
We have a couple comments online from Sherry. Our current numbering system, as an example, is 2024-0001. Would be suggested change to be 53 for the county number, 2024, followed by the sequential numbers, correct? Okay. And then from Travis, my opinion is a standardized doc numbering system is long overdue. Only he put multiple O's, N's, and G's in there. So long, however you're going to say that.
So is it 8 digits after the year? Or where do I read 8 digits?
I'm sorry.
4 digits.
8 digits for the county, 2-digit number, 4
8
digit
digits
year.
after the year.
So it'd be
County, year,
And then 8 more digits.
and 8 digits. Huh?
14 digits long.
So the year would be the full year, 2024.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah. The reason is because we do have to accommodate the large counties who have many more documents. And Nancy and I talked about this one time, that you can set up a search application and also the way you display things to not show the leading zeros if they're not applicable. But in the database, it still needs to be there to accommodate larger numbers.
So there's a question from Mel. I think I've asked before about the document number change, but have all service providers been notified of the possible bulk number change?
I'm not sure I understand.
Service providers
Have solutions.
Yes, the service providers have been communicated with. In fact, it was a topic on the agenda in the most recent quarterly meeting. I will share with you that our service providers do not have a habit of talking very much in our quarterly meetings because they don't like to talk in front of other service providers. But I absolutely guarantee you that the service providers have been notified of this possibility on multiple occasions. And nobody has come back to me and said, you can't do that.
This will make my label bigger.
Will make what?
The label bigger.
Are you sure? I don't know. I have to look at a document.
Travis said it should be a simple change. It's generally just a mask that is applied.
They're talking about this.
There are multiple different formats among similar service provider customers currently. I think what Travis is saying that is
two-digit county number.
et cetera, could
Two-digit year.
easily transfer that information to
Plus
Iowa
eight
from another
numbers.
state. It's
Digits, two digits. With zeros.
Okay. Does anyone have questions?
Digit, I just started. 7001.
So.
I guess, are we gonna talk about the auditor deal for 6 months? Once again, what I just linked about on the previous page.
Just thinking ahead a little bit, based on the previous discussion, where you remove the reference to the updated number. So I think this will be consistent with what you just did, and that is in the unnumbered paragraph which says when present in a document or instrument submitted for recording, postal identification number shall be indexed. Okay, and then to be consistent with what you did previously, you would strike the next sentence. That is, you would remove any reference to an updated postal identification number. I think that would be consistent with what you just did a few moments ago.
So strike when it starts, if a parcel, that whole entire sentence.
And to me, when you say if there, it's very similar to saying if feasible, which we were saying in the earlier section. So
Yeah, take that out.
if you want to be consistent,
Yeah.
you could strike that sentence.
So that's what falls under, you're doing the audit, part.
Yep.
Yeah.
Could I add just one thing? This is Stacy. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
One thing that we did hear a lot from the ILTA, the Bar Association, is that consistency throughout all 99 counties. I know it's hard to think about, well, we don't do it that way in our county, but as we're trying to push this initiative forward, working together with our stakeholders and our other county recorders and our other offices is really important to kind of think outside of the box. So I think, I'm an advocate for looking ahead and thinking about, sharing information, sharing data. Beacon website, I look at other states that have their parcel ID convention is all the same. It's not unique county by county by county, which in Iowa, we're county by county, everything's a little bit different. So I just want I'm just one voice, but just think about, that next step as we're trying to improve the information that we provide, and our modernization effort includes not only us getting more money, but how it can help our other stakeholders that use all of our information on a daily basis. So that's all I want to say.
And Stacy, I appreciate that, but I think what happens is there's counties with auditors and assessors that information is not shared with us, and our systems aren't tied together, or they don't do it that way. Not that we can't. My whole thing is I'm not going to change something that's not on a recorded document. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
But if it's something like we need to start having our service provider have our access with assessor, auditor information, and Eagle recorder, then so be it. But I'm not going to put something that's not on a document that's recorded.
No. I understand, Megan, totally. So,
Okay. Ann has a question. What does ILTA say about a 14-digit document number? Julie, I pulled up one of your recorded documents. It's currently 12. You know, so I don't think ILTA probably.
Jan was on in the meeting. You wanted to put a chat message in, she said.
That's the one that's already been filed. Okay. It seems to be.
Well, I was just gonna,
You would probably have to go, you have to probably go with who owns the property now. Look at. if there
Wait,
was
can
an
you say that
easement,
again,
who
please?
They bought it from, look and see if there's an easement, look who they bought it from, see if there's an easement, like, all the way back until you find it or don't find it. So there's,
Okay, you guys talking to us,
they're
or
taking over on one
I
file.
can hear a lot of background people talking.
Okay.
Just to let you all know, when we did the research on parcels, on the numbers, and we found there certain counties that have 15 digits, and so it varies. I don't have on it 10.
what you talking about, you're talking about, are you talking about
The rest of the numbers, yeah.
yeah, and I'm just looking at one, like, starts at number 1 every year. So I think that's a lot of zeros. I'm wondering if we could change it from 8 to 6, because even 999,000 documents for Polk County would be.
We can't tell you, you know.
I agree.
1 every year. I agree. I've never
Did you hear that
said
suggestion?
10,000.
That we, instead of having it
Back in
be
the good
8
old
digits
days,
after the year, that it would only be 6, to make it a shorter number.
Well, again, the issue is if you're talking about a database, it has to be big enough to fit whatever Polk County's highest number is.
I know,
So
what I'm saying is 6,
6 digits would be 999,999 documents.
because it starts over at
It
1
starts at 1.
every year. I mean, I don't know, I think
I
it's too
can
long.
tell you is you use 8 digits.
Hmm?
You have 8 digits in your number.
You currently do have 8 digits after the year.
It's continuous. It's continuous, that's why.
Throughout the, you don't change it.
I don't change it. Beginning of the year.
You don't change it at the beginning of the year?
No, it's just continuous, because I don't think I have the year. I think it just starts over. I mean, it's just continuous number.
Oh,
So,
Well, this would change that.
I know,
You would have to start
at 1, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying, because when I'm looking at this number, I have like 7 zeros in
Yeah.
1.
Yeah.
I just don't think, I don't think we would need 8, is what I'm saying.
Okay, so essentially it could be 6.
Essentially, it could be 6.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying, because I got 77, 20, 24 dash, but that's just a lot of zeros for a long time, if I'm starting at 1.
but the zeros don't show. Mine do.
I would think. Mine
Yeah,
will.
they will.
I think they will.
Since you can program them.
I program. I mean, I know that we're not, it's just, I mean, like, if somebody's writing and typing in a number or something, I just think that's a lot. But I don't really care, but I just think that's 2. I think 6 digits would work.
Well,
But I get your,
Okay, Julie, your documents do start over with the new year.
I was gonna say.
I'm just saying.
yeah.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, this could be a detail that we follow up with.
Follow up with.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's continued.
I agree with 6. It would be a lot of numbers for my
Broadly
county.
speaking,
Uh-huh.
broadly speaking, 6 or 8 digits is,
Yeah.
how does the group feel about keeping this in the?
I think the county number is actually, a good addition.
I don't have a problem with that.
Oh, yeah. Leave it at 8?
Okay, so
Well, but it's,
a potential, we're changing 8 to 6, subject to review, and then dropping the second sentence from the postal identification number paragraph Are there any other comments or questions?
Sorry, I'm sorry about that.
On number 2, where it says which shall be accurate to the second, like, it will say my historical documents.
This should be the J4.
Okay.
Yes.
I never used to do
There's
I
comments.
I just had a question about, like there, so when it says special characters, so you don't want to put a dash for the instrument number, right? You just want all one huge number. Is that correct? Not a dash to separate them out?
Okay, would it be, Ann is saying for Dickinson County, would it be 30-24-6 or 8 numbers, or would it be a continuous number?
It could be displayed differently, but from a database perspective, it would be a continuous number.
And would that 8 numbers include that county and the year? That's part of it, so that leaves you 3. So it can be 8 or more?
No, that's worded as the 8 digits. It's separate. 2-digit county number,
Okay.
year, and an 8-digit.
Well, that's why, yeah, that's why I like 6, because I'm gonna have 7 zeros and then a 1. I mean, I just see more room for errors and people putting in document numbers and references if we've got all these zeros.
Okay, so I think that's under further discussion, right? Or what?
Well,
I put mine in.
you cannot, a database, a data element is what it is. It has to have so many characters, and you have to have enough characters to accommodate whatever you think your highest number is, okay? It has to be that way. But in our system, in a county indexing system, however you display it, there are options. You can display it with a hyphen. You can display by not showing the leading zeros. Those are programmatic things that are done behind the scenes. But the data element has to have a specified number of characters big enough to hold the largest value. It just has to. No changing that.
You need 8.
But we
Well,
have
maybe we
have
should talk
separate
to
now.
somebody that, maybe we should talk to somebody that is gonna release a mortgage and have all of these numbers as well. I think maybe by breaking up with the dash would look a little bit better than having somebody release 60, 24, 0000, whatever it is too. I mean, they're gonna type all that on a mortgage release.
Yeah, there's gonna be
We're gonna
errors.
have to read all of that.
There's gonna be errors.
I mean, we already have book and page. Those are separate. So if you had county year together and then a separate number, would that work?
I think.
I think it needs to be consistent. It kind of looks jumbled.
Each of you working with your local service providers could, in your local systems, work with them to modify how it's displayed. And there's no reason to specify that here in the code.
But
You
doesn't
can do that.
doesn't that not make it consistent?
Exactly.
And
Right,
that's
Lindsay?
the whole purpose of what we're doing.
Okay, so I think they can specify what's happening on their end, but when it comes to Iowa land records, it will be displayed consistently.
That underlying data is underlying data, and when we have a reference number displayed on Iowa land records, it would be consistent across 99 counties.
Yeah.
Okay, we haven't defined that yet, but it will be, it would be consistent.
Yeah, so an example, if someone gives you Comma Vision,
I just can't hear you.
Comma Vision, you can go and put the reference number, with a dash or with a
You don't
dot.
even have to
The moment you
reference
put
that number.
it in, Comma Vision absorbs it and puts it without any dash or dot. It just has a continuous number. So the system, even though you write it differently, absorbs it and shows it to you.
Can't hear anything.
Spencer, you'll need to repeat that closer to a microphone so they can hear you.
Oh. Okay, so I was saying that if any of you use Comma Vision, what happens is when you go into the system and you put in your reference number, if it has a hash or it has a dot, the system takes it in and brings it back on without any of those other hash or dash. It just has it as a continuous line of numbers. Meaning, even if you write it in that different way for simplicity, it will still show it in that string of the 15 digits or whichever digits it is.
Yeah.
So that leads me to ask the question then is if in my local system I have the dashes added, then is that going to cause an issue with Iowa land records? Because if they're searching what their document says on that label and if I include the dashes, I'm not going to find it.
And this is something we would work with the service providers on, that your service provider can modify a display as you see fit, but they would not be changing the underlying data value, okay? We could not let them do that. But if they wanted to change your display to show dots or dashes or whatever, we don't care about that. That's up to you guys.
I think the question was, so if it does display as dots, and that's what's on the recorded document, if I then go into land records and search with the dots, I'm not going to find that document by searching that with the dots,
Yeah.
right?
Yes,
No,
Dylan, that's exactly what I'm asking.
Okay.
That's the question.
We actually have had discussions about this with our developers. And the search application can be set up to search numbers without the leading zeros, okay? So you can search for it with the leading zeros or without, and it would still work. We just have to program it that way. And my developers tell me no sweat. Okay. Okay. So, guys, have we made the amendments that you want to make to this section?
We decided we were leaving that at 8, right?
Yeah, leave it at 8.
Yeah.
If we learn of a different number of digits later, we can adjust that. Okay. So we have one more section to go over, and I hope Sherry is still with us, and Nancy too, she can add in, because this section would create a new section of code that would address recording all related to surveyors. Okay. I hesitate to dive into the details, but if you look at it, you know, there is if you look at paragraph 3, there are a set of formatting requirements. Okay? And then if you look at section 4, that is where the index legend content would be specified. This entire thing has been jointly developed by the working group of reporters who participated and the Society of Land Surveyors, okay, over several months. We haven't had many meetings lately, but that is it. The only thing that is new is the suggested clarification in section 354.18, subsection 2, which is something I'm recommending to the group to ensure that page sizes are consistent. So our policy is, and has been, since 2017, 16, 12, a long time. Surveys and plats can have a dimension of up to 24 by 36 inches. We say it's okay in our policy, but if you look at the Code of Iowa, it's still written back in the Stone Age, and that isn't referenced. So all we're really suggesting here is that we be clear that page sizes that are of that dimension are acceptable in the code. And from my point of view, this is just making the code match up with current practice. This new green section has been submitted back to the working group for review. They have not signed off on this yet. I think they'll be okay with it, but everything else with the surveyors group has been vetted. And just the other day, I asked them, one last time, do you have any changes you want to make? So I would put this also in the provisional category. We're pretty close to being done, but still a few conversations to have, and we're submitting it today as a part of the package for your provisional approval. And Sherry's on the working group, Nancy's on the working group, Jane Schultz has been on the working group, and Sue Meyer's also been on the working group. So I think Nancy and Sherry was present.
Both are still here.
Do you guys have any comments you want to add?
No, I think it was a good group and we agreed on these things or, had common thoughts about it. So I don't have any more comments.
I agree with Nancy. It was a good group. The surveyors we worked with were very forthcoming on what they were looking for and understood what we do as recorders when subdivisions and plats.
So, members of the executive board and the ESS committee, that completes all of the legislative policy that is being advanced as a part of the policy and modernization initiative that, in summary, increases the recording fee to $10 a page, that modernizes various elements of recording on the part of both preparers and recorders. It authorizes special projects relating to things like a notification system. It consolidates but does not substantively modify the governance provisions. And if you are agreeable, we are ready to put this in a, quote, near final form, provisional from the standpoint of still waiting for some comments from the Bar Association, and I suppose anybody else that comes along. And we are ready to move you forward. And I would just generally say that on November 14th, 2024, a whole ton of work has been done. A whole ton of communication has happened with recorders and with stakeholders. And with some alternate opinions on the edge, there seems to be a lot of agreement. And it's good to be, at this point in time, that close to having that level of support. Nobody has said no. Nobody has said flat out no. And we made changes based on the input that we've received from both stakeholders and reporters. I think you're in a good spot. And I recommend provisional approval at this time. with the amendments that have been noted.
Can I make a comment quick, Phil, before that motion? I think this has been great, communication, discussion, collaboration. This is something I think is important, going forward to make sure ESS and the ICRA, Executive Committee are on the same page with a lot of things. I would like to see something like this happen more frequently. Having this collaboration together, because we have differing opinions on different things, and everyone brings something unique to the table, and having the stakeholders present that are a part of ESS, I think it's important that we, in any effort that we do moving forward, I think that's important to have a unified group of people. So with that being said, then I will make the motion to move forward with the amendments as noted.
Anne has asked the question, could we have a list of the changes to be included in the?
We can't hear you. Whoever's talking.
Anne has asked for a list. So,
Of the changes
Lisa, do you have
to
those?
be
Yep.
included.
Okay,
On page 11, we would be adding names behind property.
Okay.
And on page 20, we will be striking the word must and leaving shall on the top there. And then on item 9, we will be striking the second sentence altogether, so the updated parcel. On page 21, we will be striking in the unnumbered, where it starts when present in a document or instrument submitted, talking about the parcel identification number, we will be striking the second sentence in that in its entirety. I believe that's it.
I want to add one comment. I'm going to beat a dead horse here, but this 8 digits does concern me because of the errors. I looked at Polk County. They currently, their highest number was 68,475 on December 29th. And it had 3 leading zeros ahead of it. So do you honestly think that you're going to have, let's see, 1 million documents or whatever it would be? 1, 2, 3. Yeah. 1 million documents. I mean, I just think there's a lot of room for error. Even if you had 6 numbers, you would have, your last number would have been 068475. You still had about 31,000 documents you could have recorded.
Well, with 6 numbers, you could get 99,999, right?
correct.
Yeah. Yes.
You know what, I guess, for me, it doesn't, 8 digits doesn't matter. Because first of all, I use book and page number, I don't use page number.
Right.
So, I think it all depends on your process.
But a lot of
I
the
don't
county,
Right on that other one.
how many large counties
My
though go that
recommendation
high?
to you on this is,
As the person that creates these programs, your recommendation is that we have 8 digits.
I recommend that you go back and research this a little bit, and then we can talk some more. Changing 8 to 6 or 6 to 8, that's a minor thing. So go do some research, Julie, about what's possible, but there might be some reason for it.
Maybe when I'm not around, when I'm
Yeah.
gone.
Well, and
Yeah.
that's my point. Maybe check the
So,
other larger counties,
the-
because most of the counties
I-
don't even go to the 5-digit numbers.
And I get that, Nancy, but I also have heard Phil say that the zeros, you can still use, you don't have to put in all the zeros.
Right.
But
So-
that's for searching purposes. But when somebody tells me they want a document number and they give me 6 zeros instead of 7, I guess I just have to assume there's I just think there's room. I'm going to tell the person that's not a reference because you're missing a 0.
In your internal system, right, but you have the year, so, I mean, if you have whether you have 6 zeros or 7 zeros, and it's 32, I mean, I think that's pretty easy, because you have the,
I may be the
I just
only
went
one,
through-
only one in Iowa that says your reference has to be exactly what my document number is, but it does.
And so noted, but if you're 2 digits apart, don't let that be what stops you here today. And I think Julie can go do some research in terms of, is there a reason for it? Something that you don't know about, and then we can, I think everybody would agree, it would be better if we can, we go to 6 digits. Let's investigate that option.
Okay, I was
Sure.
just giving my opinion.
I will update my motion to say that we are going to do further investigation on the instrument numbers.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Yeah,
sounds good. Great.
awesome.
That was your second. I'll second. Julie second.
I have a question for both Lisa and with Nancy. You've had one motion and 1 second. Does that meet your bylaws in terms of your voting procedures?
As far as like
Both.
ESS and
Yeah,
you need
yeah.
a separate motion
I mean,
for each.
the mutual agreement that one motion and second is good for both groups.
It's
That
okay
is
with
okay
me
with
if
you?
it's okay with the rest of the board. I think it should be okay. I didn't think about that
I'm
on that
okay
first
with it.
motion. Yeah,
A lot of us are on the same one, so.
Okay.
Sherry
Fair
shaking her
enough.
head
I'm
yes,
good with
so,
Yep, it's fine with me.
okay. That'll save time.
Okay,
So you have a motion and a second?
do we have a second?
Julie,
Yeah, Julie did, okay.
This is Mel. Can we
Aye.
do discussion now?
Yep.
Okay, I put in the chat box, but can it say up to 8 digits? I guess that was when my question didn't get seen when we were talking. If Phil said the leading zeros don't have to be into search, can they not show as well in the document number? So it can be consecutive, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, no leading zeros?
Not sure I understand the question.
I have a question. Can we just say up to 8 digits? Since the zeros don't have to appear, then we could only show the numbers in consecutive order.
Yeah,
So going back to what Sherry had, she would have 53, 20, 24, and then you want it to be 1, then 2, then 3 without any zeros?
That was what would be displayed.
Is that where you're going, Melissa?
Yes. That was my question.
Okay.
Which I think you said that's feasible, right, Phil? With our system, our internal system, Solutions Tyler, they can just put that, so that's how it appears on our labels.
yes,
But when it goes to Iowa Land Records, behind the scenes, it would have those extra digits.
right. There are options on that, yes.
Is everybody okay with that? Okay.
Okay.
Sure. Any other discussion?
Just for clarification, are we voting just the ESS voting on the motion, or is ICRA, Exec Board, and ESS voting? I just want to be clear before everyone opens their mouth on their vote.
Nancy, do you agree that it's a combined vote for all of us?
I think that should work.
Okay,
The agenda says a roll call vote for ESS and ICRA. So I think it's already spelled out for us what we should do.
okay. Thank you, Megan.
In my opinion, just me speaking.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm just a little tired here. I can do the roll call for ICRA, or you can do it, Lisa. Sorry.
Why don't you do the ICRA and I'll do the ESS?
Okay, so ICRA would be Lisa,
Yes.
Stacy,
Aye.
Sherry,
Aye.
Mel,
Aye.
Anne. Is she off? I think Anne's off. And Mary's not here, so I think I got Megan.
Aye.
Okay. All those
Ann
opposed?
said aye in the chat.
Oh, okay, I see now. All those opposed, no? Okay, it's okay with the ICRA board.
Okay. Ready for ESS? Jolynn,
Aye.
Lindsay,
Aye.
Natalie,
Aye.
Dylan, David,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Denise,
Aye.
Melissa,
Aye.
Jamie,
Aye.
Eric.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. I'm looking at the clock, it's 12:27. We do have a fairly, long list of things to do as ESS. Nancy, do you want to adjourn the executive board?
Yes. I'm always of the opinion I don't need a motion to do that. I follow Robert's rules. I've looked it up. So if there's no objections, the ICRA executive board meeting is adjourned unless somebody wants to do a motion.
Nope, bye.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. I would like to recommend a 10-minute break for the ESS committee. And we'll reconvene here at 12:40. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, by the way. One go.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We will just continue on with the next agenda item, which is the meeting summary from the August meeting. Do I have a motion to approve? Do I have a second? Second. Is there discussion? Additions, corrections, deletions? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Next agenda item is the proposed ESS calendar for 2025. And I believe Bill shared that on the screen and everything in yellow. Are there any discussion about the date?
Generally, these dates correspond with the dates that we did this year. They were all on Thursday. We did have a couple of maybe more than usual special meetings this year, and we might have one more yet this year, but I am hopeful that our agendas and our meetings are not quite as intense next year, so I'm limited the announced dates just to 4. I'll give you your option. We can either act on this today, or you can take this home and look at it and let us know if there are any conflicts. Up to you.
Is everybody okay with these dates? Can we modify them if we run
This
into
is-
scheduling conflicts? Go ahead, Mel.
Oh, thanks. I was just gonna say, I'm good with the dates. If we run into things like we have the last few ESS meetings, is there a chance we can add additional dates where we break up our agenda so we can get through the entire agenda?
Yep.
Yep.
As I said, I'm hoping that we can level it back this next year, but yeah, we'll add meetings as needed.
Okay. So with that caveat, do I have a motion to approve the proposed schedule?
I can make that motion.
Okay, Jolynn has moved. Mel, can you second?
I would.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. All right. Next agenda item is committee terms of office.
This is just informational. Reminder to everybody that if you're in a position where your term is expiring, please communicate with Lisa and Nancy and with your districts. I know some of you have district meetings coming up. There's no term limit here, so those who wish to continue, please make your wishes known. Otherwise, communicate with your districts. This is not an action item.
Bill, I have a question.
Sorry?
This is Mel. Not on those specific committees, but I know it was on a separate meeting that wasn't with coordinating committee where we discussed that the ESS marketing is no longer a committee. Has any notice been sent to those former committee members or at least the district president so they don't reappoint to the ESS marketing?
We have not had any communication recently with the old members of the marketing committee. I'm going to just make a recommendation that, maybe as we get to the end of the year, that we might have some conversation with the members of the ICRA marketing committee about, what people want to do going forward. And I'm going to say, yes, we can let the older committee members know that, that there's no reason to, at this time, make nominations.
Thank you. That would be great.
Okay. All right, I'm going to give a very quick financial report. We went through the gory details with the finance subcommittee. So just a short version of it is in the period of January through September, so the first 3 quarters, we had total budgeted income of $1,385,797 and some change. Our total revolving income was $105,649. Total income budgeted and revolving was $26,491,447. Those accounts have been reconciled. And then on the expense side, a couple of highlights would be that the total, and the right line here, total budgeted expenses were $1,315,418 and change. We did have $118,342 in planned reserve expenses. Depreciation was the big factor in the net income on the overall budget at $250,513. And grand total expenses were $26,798,834. We did retire equipment. That was another factor this year. And then our total net income was negative $353,309. Almost all of that was associated with reserve expenses and depreciation. And as we discussed with our auditor in a meeting recently and also at the finance subcommittee, we are just in a period where we are not doing new development work to develop assets. So everything is following on the depreciation side without any new asset creation on the other side. And to really judge where we are at, it really it's more appropriate just to look at the budgeted expenses and revenue. So taking that into consideration, net income for the budgeted expenses was $70,378.97 for the period. Total assets and liabilities of $2,576,350. And then we also included in the package the latest financial statement for Fund 255, the State Treasurer's Office, with a current balance of $205,222 and change, and that represents the financial reports. I do want to just add that we did make some refunds to a few counties relating to maintenance services this year, primarily because one service provider did not fully bill for some of their counties for reasons that only they can explain, but those counties did not start services with that new service provider at the beginning of the fiscal year, and because of that, they decided not to go through them. So because we didn't get charged by the service provider, we provided refunds to the counties, and I'll let the memo speak to it. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. I think the Finance Subcommittee has done recorded it out there on the web. I'm happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I would request the financial report.
Are there any questions for Phil?
I have a question on the refunds. Have all these counties been notified of this prior to this?
Yes, all counties have been notified, checks have been sent, and checks have cleared the bank.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the financial reports. I'll make that motion. Do I have a second? I can second. Joanne seconded. Okay. I have a motion and a second to approve any of the reports. Is there any final discussion? If not, then all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. We've already covered the county maintenance refunds, so we'll move on to the Bankers Trust sweep account.
Yes, so very briefly, you may recall back in May, there was some discussion about whether or not we should be doing more to invest some of the resources that we have available. I provided a memo back to the Finance Committee and to you on May 6th, basically articulating the position that the most important thing we have to do is manage cash flow, that we committed that we would do some research and identify potential options. I'm not going to say that the research is all done. I think this is maybe something that can be an ongoing discussion, particularly if we get in a better financial position as far as our overall budget is concerned. However, we do have a recommendation to move forward with establishing a sweep account with Bankers Trust, and for the sake of brevity, I'm going to do this instead of bringing Samantha in to explain it. But if you look at page 41, and there is a reference to our fees for banking services, and then what our situation would be if we implemented this money market account, we would be to the positive $482 a month estimated. It's not a huge interest rate. It's 1.85%, but that's better than the credit we're getting in our checking account for maintaining that balance. And the way it would work is we essentially move all our money into the sweep account. We'd earn money at the higher interest rate, and when it was needed to make a distribution to the county, it would automatically flow in. We are set to pull the trigger on this and would request your approval. Again, I'm just going to say this is not the end of the review and research as we go forward. I think we'll continue to look at options as we hopefully have an improved cash position, but this seems to be the right thing to do at this point in time. I'd be happy to answer any questions or request your approval.
Any questions for Phil? I know it was discussed during the finance committee meeting that Sam did a lot of the research on this, and I think she did a good job, and anytime we can make money versus paying the bank, that's a good thing, so. Do I have a motion to approve the authorization?
This is Lindsay. I'll make that motion.
I don't know.
Lindsay? Okay, Lindsay is moved and Julie seconded the motion. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Right on the agenda is the financial and strategic review.
So, actually, I'm going to offer you the opportunity to skip ahead because I know some members of the committee would prefer to act on expenditure decisions before approving the budget, and that is totally your discretion. There are three things that are on the contracts and agreements list that are reflected in the budget. So if you wish to act on these first, you may. The first one is the engagement agreement with the Rapid Group, and I'm just going to skip ahead here and just for the purposes of saying what page so you want to find that on page 53 of the materials. What we did with the Rapid Group this year is we actually ended up giving them a higher payment for their services at the end of this current fiscal year, given the preparatory work that we're doing for the legislative session. So when you compare this new agreement with the current amended agreement, this is actually lower than 2024. And that's just because we loaded a lot of activity in the pre-session work. We're going to do the session, and the session will be over, and we'll kind of drop back to something called normal, something that looks like that. This is actually, compared to budget, this is going to be a reduction, but it ends up being 30,000 hours for the services of both Nick and Bob for all of 2025. Then the next one is Brook Gentry. Brook Gentry, you'll find that on page 55. They are keeping their retainer class the same, so there's no increase associated with that, but it is, and it's a separate action item for you. And then the third one that is reflected in the budget that you may wish to act on is that the budget doesn't include a provision that would allow us to increase one of our developers, Mansfield Wall, from 25 hours to 29 hours. Because that is a staff enhancement change, we traditionally bring that to you for approval. So those are the three things that are already baked into the budget. If you want to act on those first, you may. Totally your option. And with that, I'm ready to go back and dive into the budget. I just would reiterate that on pages 45 and 46, there's a memo that I prepared to both you and regarding the final budget amendment for 2024 and the budget for 2025. And so I would encourage you to reference that memo as I go through the budget as you desire, but that's the explanatory information regarding the budget. So before I dive into the budget, what are your wishes with regard to those three action items?
I would say we just go ahead and vote on them first. Is everybody okay with that, voting on the contracts and agreements? Okay. So we'll do them all separately. Is there any discussion on the Rafferty Group for calendar year 2025, the engagement letter? Any comments or questions? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve that? Okay, do I have a second?
That's Jamie, I'll second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to approve the Rafferty Group engagement letter. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Next up is Brick Gentry. Are there any questions or discussions on that? Okay. Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the engagement letter for Brick Gentry?
It's Jamie, I'll make a motion.
Okay, Dylan has made the motion. Jamie, will you second?
Sure.
Okay. And motion and a second has been made to approve. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. All right, next up for discussion is the increase of hours for Mancy from
25 to 29.
25 to 29. Any discussion on that?
I assume she's good with that too.
She is good with that. In fact, that Nancy is ready to come back full time. The numbers just don't allow that at this moment. So, as I stated in my memo, one of my top goals for the 2025 cycle is to get her back to full time as soon as we can. That's just a question of resource management. We're not there yet, so but this is a step forward.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, hearing none, I'll just entertain a motion to increase Nancy's hours from 25 to 29.
I'll make that motion.
Denise's motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Phil, did you skip over the financial and strategic review, or are we going?
I'm going to do that.
That one?
That's,
Okay.
I'm going to do that now, so. I do want to mention, though, that, under contract and agreement, there is an action item that is labeled staff compensation. And I'm not asking you to act on that yet, because that is not built into the budget, okay? So, we can discuss that sort of concurrently with the budget, and I can talk to you about what the impact of that would be, but, it's not built into the budget, so we can discuss that along with I guess the strategic review basically is I'm showing you the latest version of our trend chart, and the blue line is 2024, we were pleasantly surprised by an uptick in recording activity in the month of October. Early signs in November look very positive as well. I can't say that the national real estate economy, I can't really say there's an explanation for it. Why did we get the bump in October? But we did.
Dylan, do you have a comment?
I mean, we're seeing a bump too. Refinances have picked up in September and October, so, those would have closed. They picked up in August, September, so it would have closed in September, October. So
Yeah.
that would explain how it is.
Yeah. So in any event, early signs in November have been very positive as well. We'll see how it plays out. And quite honestly, you know, it gave us a little bit of breathing room as we ended this year. So we're happy to see that. But at the same time, as we talk about the budget, we didn't get carried away. You know, we are overly optimistic. And I think if you read through the memo that I shared with you, basically we're looking at level in terms of income and expenditures for 2025. That's the way we built the budget. So with that, I'm going to dive into the budget, and we'll start with the budget amendment. And just to explain, we covered this in the Finance Subcommittee. You're going to find this very familiar, but everything in the burnt orange is basically the budget's actual. I don't really have a lot to report on that. And then the green column for September, we just approved the financial reports for the reconciliation of September, and those are known numbers, even though I didn't code them with the burnt orange. But those are known numbers. And then the October numbers, I would say, are also very solid, but the October numbers haven't been fully reconciled and certainly not approved by the Finance Subcommittee. But still, very solid numbers from the standpoint of, does this reflect reality? Yes, it does. So what we really have in play is what's going to happen in November and December. For comparison purposes, be sure to look at the next to the last column, which reflects the budget amendment that was adopted back in your August meeting. And then the column that's labeled proposed is based on our projections of what will happen through the end of the calendar year. Not a lot of changes to report. I'm sticking with our original projection on revenue from point of sale. I'm sticking with our original projection on e-submission income, sticking with the original projection on income from Fund 255, really standing pat on the revenue side. Compared to the August amendment, we would have total budgeted income, thanks to October, of $1,781,378 and change, which represents a $37,000 increase over the revenue that we predicted when we had the August meeting. Then moving on to the expense side of the equation, things that, same explanation, burnt orange actual, green actual for September, October, not fully reconciled, but mostly actual. And then the items that are in November and December, if it has a white background, it's a projection, but if it's purple, we have some knowledge about what those numbers are or may be on the expense side. And so we've, I guess, updated this to the extent that it is possible to do so. And I'm going to reference the expenditure recap memo just to talk about the things that have changed. So first bullet, we are looking at a participation in the PREA conference next year. We have an opportunity to get our registration fees and so on paid now. So we have added that into the budget. That is a new item that was not there previously. If you look at our development team, the numbers that are reflected there reflect the increase in Nancy's hours from 25 to 29. In the course of the budget, over the course of the year, there were things that we moved to reserve expenses that we felt we needed to do in order to make sure we could balance the budget. We're in a position now where we can move those reserve expenses back to the budget. and those two items are the license fees that we paid for the PRISM software that we're using in submission, and our GB2 license, which is the database license that we have from IBM. Those we would be moving back into the budget column. So you would see those as budget increases in the change column. For example, you can see this is the increase back for the GB2 that I have highlighted, and then this top line here would be the increase back in for the PRISM expense. The amounts that are associated with the individual bonuses for the 5 employees, those are not baked into the budget, although I have highlighted them in the list. And essentially, if you were to approve that, it would be equivalent to giving them a 3% increase for last year. And I'll show you when we get to the end how that would affect the net income. Okay, and then the next one is that's highlighted in red here on the spreadsheet would be an individual expenditure for 1-year renewal of our MISMO membership. That's not a small investment, and kind of one of the last decisions that I made in terms of recommending, because I just couldn't go into the negative for a membership. But MISMO is the premier standard-setting body for the mortgage and the financial industry as far as data relating to land records and other transactions, and they're even more important than PRIA, the Property Records Industry Association is. And I would just say that, you know, for the long term, we should aspire to align with MISMO standards. We're not there yet, but I think we need to stay involved. And again, thanks to October, the research that came in, I'm recommending we renew our membership. Just as a footnote, a lot of the things that we were able to accomplish in terms of changes in our office operations, renegotiating agreements with our office technology service providers and so on, they show up at the end of the year as a benefit to us in the budget. And I just want to acknowledge that was done and is reflected in the overall budget. So in terms of bottom line, where we end up with is a net income of $51,174, even after adding some of those big expenses back into the budget. And if you were to approve the compensation adjustments, that net income would drop to $39,674. So I think it would still leave us in a position to move forward with those acts of recognition of the team members that we have who have not had a compensation adjustment in 2 calendar years. So I'd be glad to answer any questions about the budget for 24.
So with adding in the membership for the pre-registration, and also, was over here for the software license.
The DB2?
Yes. So adding those back in and adding this in, this is where we'll be.
Right.
And those were not proposed.
Up until this point, I've been proposing to pay them out of the reserve fund. But I believe it's just a better budgeting practice to reflect what your actual expenses are. We have the ability to do that. I'm recommending that we ask Samantha a couple of entries to move it from one column to the next. And that just seems sensible to do. And then as we look at projections for 2025, make decisions that we need to make, put it in the budget right up front. So those are not in reserve next year, they're in the budget.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
Actually, that the finance subcommittee did approve of the change.
Any discussion, questions?
I'm sorry, what was the bonus dollar amount? 3%.
Now it's $11,500.
What was that? I missed that. I can't hear a lot of shuffling of papers, so we can't hear all the other conversation.
I'm not sure.
She wants, 11,500 is the total amount that's proposed for, bonuses.
Yes, right.
Compensation.
The 3%, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
So essentially, be giving them a lump sum amount equivalent to what would have been a 3% increase.
You don't have it broke down per person.
Well, in the, if you skip ahead to the memo,
Compensation one?
yes. So, I guess it is page, so we're on page 60. So, no, I did not include names, but I did do the position titles. So
No, I'm not worried about the names. I was worried about each position and what that,
yeah, well, I mean,
what portion of the 11,500 is each allocated?
okay, I don't mean to be circumspect about it, but without, putting it in the packet, if you were to look at the budget amendment and the line items for each of those positions, you see what the total cost of the position is. So,
And calculate it.
Kelly is the most senior, highest paid person on the team. And we apply 3% to his base wage, it's gonna be several $1,000s. For Nancy's position, which is also a high hourly rate because she's a software developer, but it's gonna be less because she's only been working half-time. So I'm applying the 3% basically to their base wage, not including benefits, for their position using their current hourly rate. And then, after you take Kelly's off, that's $4,000 right off the top. You're kind of splitting it up among those other positions.
Okay.
The other staff who are not included, either were recently hired or they got the compensation increase before we put the budget freeze in, before we put the pay freeze in. So these are the people that really, really have not had any adjustment in 2 years.
Then 23. 22. Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Any discussion?
I will make the comment too that some have actually gotten less because of the status has been moved to part-time as well as being previously full-time, just to take that into consideration as well.
Yep. Okay. Hearing no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion to approve the final budget amendment for the calendar year 2024.
This is Lindsay. I'll move that.
Thank you, Lindsay.
I'll second. Natalie?
Natalie, a second. All right. Motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
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 Sorry, I couldn't unmute fast enough.
Okay, I always pause. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, we'll move on to 25 budget.
We then just have them do a motion for the staff as well.
No, I think we can do that separately.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do we want to just do that right now?
You
Okay.
choose to, you can.
Yeah, let's just incorporate that in. So, I'll also entertain a motion to approve the proposed staff compensation. We're kind of going out of order on the agenda.
That's right.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Natalie
I'll
moved
second.
and Julia seconded. Okay. Any further discussion? Okay. Have a motion on the floor to entertain, to approve that staff compensation. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Now we'll move on to the 2025 budget.
Okay, so, as far as the following along with the memo, you should, assist of your packet. And, the revenue is, I think, reflected in the comparison with the budget amendment for 2024 that you just approved.
Sorry, Phil, page 50 or page 46?
Page 46. I may not have said that correctly,
No,
so
you
page
said it right,
46.
but
Yes. So if you look at the top right here, telling you 2025. So just talking about, comparisons here, I would draw your attention to the next to the last column, which is the proposed November 2024 amendment. Okay, that's what you just approved. And then the column before that is the total for what is being proposed January through December. And so you can see that, in terms of, for example, the first line here, at the bottom of this first section, this would be the amount from the point of sale system. So just to verify that. So the point of sale service fee, how much are we going to get from that? And I'm projecting $108,000 in income. Based on the amendment that you just approved, we are expected to be at $110,000. So the budget that I'm recommending for 25 actually represents a small decrease in income from that. Similarly, if you look at the first line of the next section, which is the total e-submission fee, I'm projecting total income from e-submission to be $968,500. The budget amendment you just approved was $973,062, or roughly a $4,900 decrease. The next one I would call out is that monies received from Fund 255, the $1 additional fee. We are projecting an income of $472,500. The actual income of the budget amendment we just approved shows income of $475,756, which is a 3% $100,000 decrease. And then the expenses associated with the local maintenance paid to local service providers based on the cost of living adjustment announced by the Social Security Administration, which is also included in your packet. The projected cost of that is $322,952, which is about $19,000 more than the current year. The item highlighted in yellow here is the amount of the cost share credit. So I want to be clear that we're not doing any budgeting based on the possibility of passing the increase bill. This is based on current law. Last year, when we started the year, we budgeted $115,000 for the cost share credit. We ended up increasing that to about $130,000 because we had the extra revenue. I'm starting out at $120,000 this year. This does not take into account the possibility that if the bill passes, that we take over 100% of that cost. Again, we're looking at current law. If the bill were to pass, then we'd have to look at how soon the fee increase would go into effect. Most likely, if that happened, I might increase the cost share credit for 2025, but not take it all over because the fee increase really would not have been in effect very long. But the idea would be to phase it in. That's a lot of speculation. So I'm just saying $120,000 is cost share credit as our starting point. That is where we are at. So if you look at the total projected income, I'm projecting $1,785,000 and change in income for 2025, and all told, income in 2024 is about the same, $178,137. So the projected income increase will be a little over $4,000. So the main conclusion I hope you get from that is that we're not planning on a big revenue increase. I'm not planning on the real estate economy to recover. I'm planning on flatline, and that's what the budget is built on. Now, we're going to hope and pray that things get better, but not going to start out with any unrealistic assumptions. Okay, that's the revenue picture. Then on the expenditure side, again, using the amendment that we just adopted as a benchmark, what are we taking into account? Well, I have not built in salary increases for the team. Okay, this is still a flat budget, not taking into account the bonuses, just looking at what our current biweekly expenditure is for payroll, and I'm not starting 2025 with an assumption that we're going to give 1, 2, 3, 5, whatever you want to choose. I'm basically assuming status quo for the positions that we have, and I'm just listening. What else would I highlight here? Looking at the memo. Okay, going back up to taxes. This yellow item assumes an expense of about $2,000 to pay for the Reporters Association 990 return. Recent communications with Devin suggest that it will be a little bit higher than that. Our basic audit fees are going to be going up this year as well, and so that is reflected in the budget. There's a category called ESS meetings, and I'm just projecting that our meeting expenses will be at that higher level because of the higher mileage reimbursement rate, and maybe I'm just being a little conservative on that. Overall, office operation expenses are not, we're not looking for big changes there. I anticipate that we'll have a small decrease in the overall office operation budget. Then moving ahead, let's go back up to insurance. I think the way I built this, I'm assuming about a 10% increase in insurance expenses. And then moving down to education and outreach. When we get to PREA, which we talked about in the current fiscal year, you don't pay for your hotel and meal and all that expense until you're there. So I built in about $1,500 for that, and I also built in about $500 to participate in the housing conference next year. So we'll see how that goes. But those are really the only two meetings that we're planning to do. I would like to participate in more MISMO meetings, but I just don't have the money for it. So if something good happens, then I may be able to participate virtually, but probably not in person. Although in January I would like to go to Florida where they're meeting. That would be nice, but probably not in the cards. Just to say it very plainly and as factually as I can, in the second half of next year, we're not anticipating any income from the association for the MOU, nor are we planning on any expenditures associated with that. As I mentioned earlier, when you look at technical expenditures, I've built the PRISM license and the DB2 license back into the budget. And again, if you were to do the side-by-side comparison on the proposed versus proposed versus the November amendment, not a lot of change. And then total expenditures estimated to be $1 million. Make sure this is right. $1,784,832.45 compared to projected income of $1,785,637 for a whopping projected net income of $794. So I would say that, this is not unusual for us because we generally try to be conservative on the revenue estimate, and we try to be, I don't know if frugal is the right word, but careful on the expenditure side. And then what happens over the course of the year is that we manage the expenditure and the revenue side so that we kind of gradually build up more net income as we go into the year. I think the most difficult, I'm not saying there are other difficult issues, but, I definitely I need to get Nancy back to full time. We're behind the eight ball with not having her in a full-time position. And, kind of looking at 2025, thinking that we don't have any built-in revenue for salary increases. That's kind of a difficult thing because, without our team, we're in trouble. But I think we have to start out there and then see where we're at in February and see what we can do. And then particularly as we get into the main meeting and then see what happens in the legislature, then we can make a judgment about can we do something more. And, you know, if we see the economy and, you know that despite the results of the election, that the Fed looks like they're poised to reduce interest rates again, and maybe another time after that. And I know there's not a direct relationship between mortgage rates and whatever the Fed does, but it certainly doesn't help. I mean, it doesn't hurt for the Fed to reduce the Fed rate. And if that happens, then get in the spring, maybe we can see that rebound. So, but I have to say that this team is probably the main objective when we get into 2025, to be able to do that over more marketing, over other stuff that we might want to do. And there's a reason why we have said, and I provided the numbers to the recorders about what it means to pass the bill. You know, well, it means about another $600,000 in income, given certain assumptions. And that means that, okay, we could not only take care of our core team, but then be in a position to hire additional staff members, particularly developers, that are going to be needed to do the fulfillment of the promises that we're making as a part of the modernization initiative. So that's the rationale behind the budget, and it's I would share with you that nothing that is refined enough to publish, but we have done some preliminary work on what would our budget look like, if the bill were to pass. I don't want to be overly optimistic or jinx it or anything like that, but I would share that putting it back into the staff would be the main thing that we would do.
Now, it's going to sound like I wasn't paying attention, but on the salaries, you did not, that is the base from 24. It's not, does not include the 3% we gave them?
There's no interest.
Okay. So what we're going to try to do is if we have more money, then we'll give it to them at the end of the year like we're doing now. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Well, what I want to do is I would love in the first or the second quarter of next year to be able to make a base salary adjustment, not just a bonus.
Right.
I don't want to do that again.
I know.
But I feel like we should be doing something to recognize that. Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. I just wanted to, I would just say that we're going to revisit that because we don't want to pay them less.
True. But we'll have to see where we are in February.
Absolutely. Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to.
I'd be happy to answer any other questions you have.
For the senior developer, there's an increase of 21. Is that the idea of just adding more hours?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that is what that represents. Yeah.
And then on account manager on the second page, is a decrease of 15,000. Is that related to the MOU? That's just
Yes.
No,
Where-
that's my position.
Huh?
That's my position.
Oh, yeah.
I can speak to that. It reflects some benefit changes that I made.
Okay.
Yeah, then we do those voluntary.
What?
Did you do them voluntary?
I did.
I mean, the way I put the staff budget together is I've got the benefit changes went into effect October 1, okay? And so I've got a month's worth of real payroll that I can look at and take everything into account. And I would say I'm very, very confident in these cost estimates, but it doesn't have any increase to it. Except for those 20.
other questions for Phil regarding the budget for 2025? Thank you, Phil, for putting that together, I guess, and yeah, good job. Hopefully, maybe it could be a little closer next time. To get it to within the pennies.
Yeah.
That would take care of it.
Yeah, no more mail-apples postcards.
Yeah.
You're a pretty lean machine, I'm just saying.
Do you think, I do have a question, on the deputies conference, I know the numbers were way down this year.
Yeah.
And I assume that a lot of that was because counties had to cut their budgets for travel and that kind of stuff, and they just couldn't afford. I'm gonna make the same assumption that that's gonna apply for budgets 25, 26. Have we thought about making that every other year? Possibly skipping?
What I would share with you is that the team is looking at a number of different options, but for the purposes of building a budget, just put in, okay, this is going to be a break even. We used 7,000 as our starting point last year. We're doing that again this year, but it has to break even. Okay? It really has to pay for itself. And we did that this year. Yeah, we did that because we cut expenses. So,
I'm just thinking from, if we're looking at compensating staff, that would be a big, I would not be opposed to cutting that out and giving that money.
Yeah.
But we said
Budget
$7,000 budgeted,
Right.
and also $7,000 income that comes in, so it breaks even.
It breaks even.
We're not making any money on that.
Because you're charging.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely is a break even.
And it's a really nice vest. Really, really, very well done.
Thank you.
It is, it's very, very well done.
And
I think the deputy.
Sure, and it's a really lovely venue. Dylan, it's West 48, if you've ever been there. It's first floor, it's full of windows, they have a lovely kitchen, so we can bring our own food and drinks, and
Yeah.
they have swings and inside, and they have pool tables. Is it pool table, foosball?
I think it's foosball.
Maybe it's ping pong.
Foosball and ping pong, yeah.
Yeah.
Deputies get it nicer than the recorders.
This is not.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, hello.
My deputy didn't choose that.
I'm
sarcastic. The conference or is it the state?
And we go from
Really, it's really, really nice, and I think the deputies enjoyed it.
It's nice to have something for them.
I think it is too.
So your point is well taken, and we are looking at options for other things that we could do, not just assuming we would do the same thing every year. Somebody remind me, did we actually vote on the 2025 budget?
No, not yet, not yet, so.
I don't know how you would not be able to keep track, so I'm just
I
saying.
don't know, okay.
I didn't notice that something wasn't talked about with talking about staff changes in the MOU, that a position would be affected.
That is a good point. Yes, that is a point that,
I
So
missed
would you
that.
wonder?
What was that?
Kristen, was pointing out that, the budget will have an impact on staffing here, particularly related to the MOU. And that is known and has been discussed. I would request your approval of the 2025 budget.
pending no further discussion, do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second. Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the 25 budget. All those in favor say aye.
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 So I just have a couple of updates and then we'll adjourn as you wish. Yes.
Some say, are there anybody opposed? I'm assuming there's nobody opposed, so Phil, you can go on. Motion carried. Continue.
It's been a lot.
You're up.
We're good.
Okay.
Go.
So just a couple of project updates. So first, what I want to talk about is the adoption of the e-submission API. We have been rolling that out this year. I want to give kudos to the team from Solutions, Harris, and kudos to the CAT team, who did the full migration. I want to give some modest credit to the Fiddler team because they almost have moved to production, but not quite. They're getting close. But
tomorrow.
I would.
If everything with testing goes well today with Fiddler, it will be.
I would just not to be too positive about it because they are 2 quarters behind what the schedule was. I would express some measure of frustration that the Tyler team has not moved more expeditiously. They have had issues in testing, and we have had to repeatedly ask for status reports from them. We've been ready to work with them. Myrna's our point person on that, and it has been her #1 priority to assist service providers with making that transition. They have indicated that they might be able to get it done by March. So that's something that we'll continue to stay on top of.
Do you know who you're working with there at Tyler?
Julie is the main point person, but I can share with you that there are more than a dozen people that I communicated with at Tyler about this. Then there are 2 situations where a service provider serves only one county. One of them is Marshall County, and the other one is Ringgold. I understand why a county might choose a singular service provider, but if I'm that service provider, it's pretty hard to invest in development when their income stream is limited to one county. So we're being patient with them, but the service providers in Marshall and Ringgold are receiving some additional pressure from me to get on the stick. Then, given the delays that we have had in moving out the e-submission API, not our delays, I want to emphasize, we are going to be behind schedule in terms of implementing the county upload API. That has been developed. It is ready for service providers to develop against and to test with. In addition to that, we've had time to make some further enhancements to the county upload API. And so the original plan was for all of the service providers to be uploaded or updated to the new county upload API by March of 2025. We're not going to hit that. It's just the reality that we're probably looking earliest fall of 2025 before we can get that implemented. There are a lot of improvements built into the new API that would be better for those service providers and us. Things like one that would maybe hit home with some reporters is that the new API is built in a way that it could more easily handle large documents being uploaded, so that we would not have the issues that we had in the past. But we can't take advantage of it until the service providers get their work done. And so we'll see how it goes, but that's the update. On the positive side, we are fully back in business in redaction with our original service provider. Their new system has been implemented. We are processing file documents every day. They're currently in the process reviewing all of the records from the outage period. And we're asking them to do that, even though we have done the redactions and we have implemented it. We want them to go through the process with them, so that we can be fast. Did we miss anything? How did we do against their system? Things like that are lessons learned that we're looking forward to evaluating. But bottom line is, they're doing that retesting work at no additional cost to us. So it's a benefit, and we're taking advantage of it. We have not started back file redaction yet on the documents. We need to complete this process first, but it is working, and I have to give credit to the CSI team that it was challenging when we had to go to Plan B, but they have done everything we've asked them to do, and we appreciate the work that they've done. So we're going to continue to work with them through the end of the calendar year, and that is another item that we're going to be, I should say, through the end of the fiscal year, and that's another item that we will evaluate for alternatives going forward. But it's working, and our users should feel secure and good that it is working. So that's my update for today. I'm happy to answer any questions on any other topics.
Good job. You have on your modernization initiative budget projections. You said you had projections on what the budget would look like if
Well,
that's the legislation.
I alluded to that.
Can you just email it?
But probably not ready for public disclosure, but bottom line is most of the new income from the updated fee structure, I would be plowing back into staff, primarily development staff, because that who has to do the work to fulfill all these changes that we've been talking about.
Probably by February's meeting, you'd have a better idea of whether it's gonna take flight or not.
I would have a next generation version of that. But if you took this year's budget and you added $600,000 to it, and then you added 3 developers expense, you would be pretty close.
The other item that we skipped over was local service providers. Fiscal year 25.
I didn't mention that.
I missed that.
But just it's mainly an update item. So in your packet on page 59 is an excerpt of the Social Security announcement that the cost of living adjustment they announced in October is 2.5%, and that is the figure I used to estimate the maintenance costs in
Okay, that's everything on the agenda.
Right. And that's all I have for you. And I wish to say to you, everybody online and to the group here, that this has been a lot. And it's a huge milestone to hit this point today. And so we're a week or two away from submitting a comprehensive bill to the legislature. And nobody has said no yet. So we have more work to do, but a lot has been accomplished, and I'm very grateful for all of the committee work, the working group work, the meetings that our stakeholder groups have had to endure, because it has been work for them to kind of plow through this. And I just want to say, going into this Thanksgiving period, we have a lot to be thankful for. So, thank you.
Can I make a comment?
Exactly. True.
All right, Lindsay, is that you?
Yeah, this is me. I've been kind of quiet this meeting, just kind of listening quite a bit, but I'm really struggling right now. I'm struggling with the fact that we're relying on Census's efforts and all of her hard work to aid in our process to get this legislation passed, as well as the Rafferty Group. And seeing those zeros is very hard for me. That in my mind is a slap in her face. Whether that is the intent, I don't think it is. But to hear that we're going to bring on further development and further things for an effort that has been done by somebody, it's bothering to me. So I wanted to share that with the group.
Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you, Lindsay. For sharing.
When she was brought on, I guess, was that the, how do I say it? I mean, knowing that this is how it was going to be, possibly, that it would show zeros? I don't recall.
Well, I don't know how deep we want to get into it, but I think a year ago, I could have shared with you that the sustainability just wasn't there. I think anybody who did the math knew that. So, and there are other factors that come into play that are not appropriate for this meeting.
Sure. I just didn't know if I overlooked something or, yeah. I felt after being on this for a few years, I'm finally understanding, you know, I guess some of the budgets and that stuff, you know, to get that and understand it. But when someone first comes on, I mean, it can be overwhelming to follow some of this. So.
You know, Nancy and Lisa did not come to me and say, hey, we need to do this because of any, you know, personal issues or anything like that. But from my point of view, putting the equation together of what is the right path for us to move forward, you want to be as sensitive and as supportive as you can be for those who may be affected, and I think we're doing that. But making choices about how to organize ourselves and invest in the things that need to be invested in to fulfill the things that we put on the table, I am 100% sure that you are making the right decision. And I unflinchingly say sometimes you do have to make difficult choices, and it's not personal, but it's the right thing to do. And I absolutely will stand by the recommendation that this is the right thing to do. And this is not the end for anybody. But this is an opportunity, in my mind, and I would just share part of my history, is sometimes you're shown the door and it opens up a new opportunity. When Governor Vilsack was elected governor, they showed me the door. I was shown the door, but it opened up new opportunities for me. And this is one of those situations. So I appreciate the sensitivity to it, and we are handling with that approach, but it's the right thing to do.
Any other discussion? All right. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving.